6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's Wednesday, June 19th. Going to be a bit cooler today. Came in this morning, lots of cloud cover. And the way it works in Colorado is if you wake up with cloud cover, you're going to have it pretty much all day. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. And I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and a lot of the times pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up on today's show, we're going to dive into a whole lot of issues. We're going to start with Biden's illegal immigration plan. What did he announce yesterday? How's that going to affect you? How's it going to affect the presidential campaign? Are you happy with him? I think he's just placating angry Democrats from his decisions made last week with regards to the border, some of his executive orders. So he's bouncing back and forth, trying to keep all sides happy. I don't think it's working. The Utah governor blasts Denver Mayor Mike Johnston. Stop sending your illegal immigrants to Utah. Oh, Mikey, we're going to cover that as well. And then women in the Republican Party, a big piece in New York Magazine, wondering what has happened to Republican women. How did we go from Barbara Bush and Pearls to MTG and CrossFit and speaker challenges and all that? An incredible article that, got the conversation going in the Hunt House last night. Women and the Republican Party. Then we're going to talk to Jack Phillips's lawyer. How did oral arguments go before the Colorado Supreme Court yesterday? Get some insight on what's happening to Jack and why do they keep pursuing this guy? Let the guy run his own business. Jake Warner with Alliance Defending Freedom will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. And then the man, the myth, the legend himself, Peter Boyles, joins us at 9 o'clock. He wrote a great piece in the Denver Post over the weekend about Alan Berg. Remember that name? I'll give you a sense of what it was like with Alan Berg on radio here in Colorado.
Alan Berg on KOA, 3:17 in the afternoon, leaving us about 10 minutes in the show. Let's go to line one. You're on the air.
Hey, Alan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Kevin. I'm calling from Colorado Springs.
Go ahead.
And we've been listening to you all day. We think you're just a big bag of wind down here.
Well, why is that?
Oh, I don't know. You're just one of those type people.
Well, sir, what is it? Would you care to challenge a point of mine and make a presentation on it? Or do you just want to say I'm a bag of wind?
Well,
I'll be glad to listen to what your argument is.
Okay, I'd like to...
That is Alan Berg. Alan gunned down and assassinated in an anti-Semitic strike. That happened in the 80s, I believe, Billy? So
yeah, it was the 80s.
A legendary radio host, Peter Boyles, wrote about him in the Denver Post over the weekend. So we'll be talking to Peter Boyles in the 9 o'clock hour. Absolutely fantastic show today. You're not going to want to miss one moment of it. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 54, mostly cloudy in Denver on Juneteenth. Expecting highs in the low 70s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, charges have been reduced for the trucker accused of causing a deadly crash near Conifer last week. Ignacio Cruz Mendoza initially faced charges of vehicular homicide and assault, but those charges have been reduced to 1 count of careless driving resulting in death and 3 counts of careless driving resulting in injury. Officials say Cruz Mendoza lost control of his semi on US 285 and spilled a load of heavy metal pipes, killing 1 other driver and injuring several others. Anderson Aldridge, the man who opened fire in a Colorado Springs nightclub, admitted Tuesday the attack 2 years ago was a hate crime. A judge accepted the plea deal despite survivors and family members of the victims pleading for the death penalty. Aldridge was given 55 life sentences in the federal case to run concurrent with the 5 life sentences from the state trial, 1 for each person gunned down. President Biden celebrating more amnesty, talking about how great non-citizens are, and then another moment.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas, as well as Secretary Becerra.
Okay, what happened is Alejandro was on there. He looked at it on the script. He couldn't figure it out. So it's another classic Joe Biden moment. My number is 26 days now. My guess, he's out in 26 days. I don't know what these Marxist Democrats are going to do, but, they're here to create chaos. So Mays has passed away at the age of 93. Mays played 20 plus years, most of them with the Giants, and was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. A final report on Colorado's third plane crash this month could take up to 2 years. NTSB investigators say they have a lot to look at in this one. Route County officials confirmed the small plane had engine problems when it went down at a mobile home park in Steamboat. It burst into flames, destroying 2 trailers and killing both people on board. They've since identified them as Dan Dunn and Jessica Melton. Colorado is suing a cannabis business in Weld County. Attorney General Phil Weiser claims it's selling products with THC levels up to 35 times higher than the legal limit. He says G Distributors has been reckless with little regard for requirements like lab testing and age verification. The company was based in Greeley and operates as CBDDY. Weiser alleges most of the pot products are marketed in forms of flavors designed to appeal to kids. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com.
Ball game in the balance right here. Fly ball, right field, hit deep, debut, Teo, a hero. The Dodgers lead.
Dodgers come back to rock the Rockies at Coors. 11-9. Series continues tonight at Coors Field.
Connor McDavid with 17.3 to go sends this series back to Alberta. They will indeed drag the Cats back to Edmonton.
Stanley Cup Finals heads back to Edmonton. Oilers survive in Florida 5-3. Panthers lead it 3-2. 51 in Westminster, 50 in Lone Tree, and 54 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for the unseasonably cool temperatures to continue for another day, but temperatures start to go up tomorrow. Highs today will only be around 70 to low 70s. There will be a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing late this afternoon and evening, maybe a couple tonight, lows 50s. Not as cold. Mid to upper 80s Thursday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Friday, mid-80s, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Near 90 by Saturday, low to mid-90s by Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, would love to hear your thoughts Those phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Biden announces new policy shielding undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation. The action would shield about 500,000 immigrants living in the U.S. from deportation. This is the biggest thing since DACA, an immigration advocate said. NBC News reporting President Joe Biden is taking executive action to protect undocumented spouses of American citizens, a move that would shield about 500,000 immigrants from deportation. The White House announced the election year policy Tuesday, framing it as new action to keep families together. The action protecting the spouses was likely to be announced soon after urging from immigration advocates and Democrat lawmakers, and as the president courts Latino voters in crucial battleground states. The new policy would allow non-citizens who have been in the country for at least 10 years and are married to a U.S. citizen and their children to apply for permanent residence without leaving the country. During a ceremony at the White House, Biden called the steps a, quote, common sense fix to a system that is cumbersome, risky, and separates families. He said that the order would go into effect this summer and stressed that it would not benefit the people who recently came to the country. Instead, it would help people who are paying taxes, contributing to our country, and their family members. This is the biggest thing since DACA, said a source familiar with the matter, an immigration advocate. Give me a call and tell me what you think of this. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Bill, I'm a little confused by this because it only applies to people that have been here 10 years or later. Right. So you're not going to have this rush all of a sudden to Vegas over the weekend to go to the wedding chapels. Let's get married. Let's get married because we're going to turn you into an American citizen today. So it applies to people 10 years that have been here for 10 years or longer. Biden's already struggling with not only conservatives, but definitely conservatives, but some independents too, that he's too weak on the border. And so this to me feels like he's trying to bounce back from some of his executive decisions. I think it was 2 weeks ago that were, quote unquote, going to, implement tougher restrictions on the border. So it seems to me like this is not going to help him because this thing's also going to get so wrapped up in the courts this is not going to be implemented until after the election. So I don't know what's happening here.
Well, the thing is, one, the average voter pays very little attention to implementation. They pay a lot more attention to just the base announcement. So whether or not it actually happens, but that doesn't seem to help him.
Like he's already seen weak on the border, and now he's going to allow 500,000 people that are married to illegals to basically speed that process up.
Well,
and that's helpful.
Here's the thing is, I bet it'll change the votes, those 500,000 people, if it was something else. I mean, and the people involved in that family. I mean, it is pandering. Absolutely. Is it? But again, this is going to be an election that is won on the margins, and he has to look like he's doing something and that he's doing something to move things forward. And this is a very, very interesting contrast, I believe. And I'm not sure if the Democrats will be able to draw it properly. But you have the Republican side of the aisle saying we need to deport the illegals. Yes. And now Biden has come and said, even if they're illegal,
keep the families together.
Yep, exactly. And that's going to be different because what's the one thing we've talked about that changes public opinion very, very quickly on deporting illegals? Coming in and taking the kids and the families apart. That hurts the perception of the idea of deporting the illegals. We don't want another Elian Gonzalez, and that's what Biden is doing. Now, whether or not the Democrats can draw that conclusion and make the voters think that, I doubt it. They're not very good at messaging.
So I actually,
that's the idea.
I think there's two things going on here. One is I think the executive orders he implemented a few weeks ago to put some greater restrictions on the border ticked off a lot of his base. If you looked at the tweets that came from Democrat lawmakers in Colorado, for instance, it is, well, why don't we just have Donald Trump? You're just implementing Donald Trump policies. How dare you? And they were very angry about some of his executive orders. Sure. So I think I think he's watching his base fall apart and crumble in so many ways. One, I don't think the youth are that excited about Joe Biden, right? I think things are really hard for them. They can't buy homes. Everything's more expensive. I don't think he has the energy and the excitement that, say, Barack Obama had a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I don't think the youth are with him. We've seen the polling that shows Hispanics and Black Americans are going, yeah, I'm looking for something else. And I covered this on Jenna Ellis tonight when I hosted her show yesterday with CJ Pearson about the fact that Black Americans are just looking for something new, especially young Black Americans. They're breaking with the Democrat Party in record numbers. Okay. So I think Biden's losing his base in lots of ways. He's got to try to shore it up. Look, Jews are leaving the Democrat Party because of the anti-Semitism that's taking place there.
Are they? And the
I
question,
think they are.
And here's the question. I understand the idea that we think they are, but I have a deeper question about whether or not Hispanics, Blacks, Jews are really leaving the Democrat Party. They may be upset. And the reason I'm questioning that is the idea of leaving is when we were in the last election cycle, is the voter registration changing? We won't know that for a while. But in those demographics, is voter registration changing? They may vote for someone else, but the idea that they're fleeing, I'm less persuaded of. And I'm less persuaded that it is large numbers. Now, can small numbers make a difference? Yes. If Donald Trump can increase the percentage of minority voters that he got by about 10%, that has a potential to swing the entire election. But that's only 10%. That's not like all of a sudden the Black voters are becoming Republican voters. That's just not what is happening.
So the polling that CNN was talking about that we were covering yesterday on the show was something around 14 to 16% of Blacks have now changed from supporting, maybe not registration, but from supporting Biden to Trump.
Yeah. In that single,
and it's not bouncing back. It's not bouncing back
in that single poll, but that's not necessarily universal because the numbers are lower in other polls based on those minorities. And just like a number of months ago, we had a poll that shows that people over the age of 55 were flocking to Biden. Didn't believe that at the time. No. That poll ended up being somewhat of an outlier based on those demographics. So polling's a little bit odd right now, but yes, Biden has a very strong weakness with minority voters. However, I am less persuaded that when it comes down to the actual election, that they're going to look at Trump and think he's going to offer them a better deal, especially Hispanics that are going to look at it and go,
even if they stay home.
Yes, that's the issue.
But I do think that Biden's looking at his base going, we're fracturing with Jews, we're fracturing with African Americans, we're fracturing with Hispanics, we're fracturing with young people. They're not solid, they're not excited, they're not out there supporting him in the ways that they have previous Democrats. So one, I think he's trying to shore up the base, but two, and I actually think this is the real reason, I think they're anticipating to lose.
What do you mean?
I think they're trying to lay down the legal structures to be able to stop deportations that are coming. So this is an anticipatory move in light of the fact that they may lose this November, and they want to have every legal structure in place to prevent mass deportations.
See, I would agree with you if this was a law. This is an executive order that Trump can come in and remand the very first day.
Yeah.
So this doesn't really matter based on trying to shore up. I understand your case about what they're trying to do. They're trying to prevent it, but this is an incredibly ineffective way.
I think it's the only way they can't get it through. They can't get something through Congress.
No, they can't. But the issue is that if we're in the meeting and we're like, you know what we're going to do to prevent Donald Trump from deporting all these people? We have to take a series of executive actions. If someone in that room doesn't raise their hand and go, excuse me, can't Donald Trump do that day one that he's in the Oval Office? I mean, maybe I've gotten things wrong, sir, but isn't that kind of the procedure? And they'd go, oh, crap. Okay. So that's why I think this is more window dressing than actual functional policy, because it can be immediately remanded by Donald Trump. And that would be one of the things that he would do. If he's going to keep his promise for deporting the illegals, he has to remand this. He has
that
to.
Doesn't push him a little bit into the corner and say, all right, you're breaking up the families. We're going to get the AOC crying outside the detention centers all over again type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't make it more difficult for him, but he's going to go. But he has to, if he's like, I'm going to deport the illegals, he has to hold this one as well. However, this executive order does allow him to defer that for a while. He can say, I have to focus on other people first and allow this to continue. Even though he may not like it, even though Republicans may not like it, this one is likely to continue because of exactly what you said. The PR aspect of it makes it more difficult. So if you're going to attack the illegals and go after getting them out of the country, you got to go after the ones that are not in the families, not the moms, not the kids, not the husbands first. You got to go after the criminals.
Yep.
And that's going to be complicated. It's going to be really complicated to execute that.
Well, I know you believe it's complicated because it's hard to chase down these criminals. They're criminals. They like hi. They don't follow the law.
They don't stand there and go hi.
But it's definitely where you like with what happened to Rachel Morin, the mom of 5 that was out hiking, attacked, raped, murdered by an illegal immigrant that had done this in El Salvador, fled to America, assaulted a 9-year-old girl in Los Angeles. There's all the political will in the world to get those guys out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I go, okay, I know maybe hard to chase them, but you're not going to face any political pushback.
Well, the issue,
I hope not.
The problem's going to be is how do you find them? And that'll be the issue is until they do the crimes and you catch them, it's hard to, it's difficult to find them because here's the reason. If it was easy to find them, we already would have. I mean, if it was a very, very easy thing to do, we already would have done it.
Yeah, I agree with that if it wasn't for the fact that the state of Colorado, for instance, is stopping localities from coordinating with ICE, local police agencies from coordinating with ICE. So in many ways, some of these guys are just getting out. They get busted, they get bonded, and then they just run away because we are legally prevented from coordinating with ICE.
Yeah, but even then, if it was that simple, it wouldn't be that there wouldn't be a structure, there wouldn't be a pushback between the two of them. If it was just, hey, it's so easy for us to round up the criminals that we all know that are illegal inside of Denver, we could round them all up and get them out of here. Again, if the police knew exactly where they were, you think they wouldn't go and round them up all the time? And that's the thing is if the police knew exactly where the criminals were at that time, they would probably go and get them. I'm just spitballing here. I've never been a law enforcement officer, but I'm just guessing
but
that if they say, here's all the criminals in this area, meet, and they're having their monthly, get to know you brunch, and they're having some criminal guest speaker inside the breakfast, like some other organizations do, maybe you show up at the breakfast and maybe you arrest them. I'm just saying that's not necessarily that overt.
I would agree with that if we just didn't have DAs that were like, cash bail is the worst thing in the world.
Oh, that's part of it,
and
too.
Lawmakers pushing that, Elizabeth Epps.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, you see she's being endorsed by, or her opponent's pretty much endorsed by every Democrat out there.
Probably.
See ya, Epps.
Yeah, that makes
Not
sense.
looking good.
That
Good
totally
text messages from Gina and Aurora. I think what the Biden administration is trying to do is protect as many people as they can from deportation. Gina, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, sure could be. That could be part of it.
Jacqueline, good morning, guys from Nebraska. First, they empty out our jails and deport all those people back to where they came from, and then our prisons deport them, all of them, and send them back to where they came from. And they go after all the businesses that have hired these people. Then you go after everyone that is rented to these people, and you cut off all state and federal funding for these people, and you start deporting them and getting them out of our country, says Jacqueline.
I'm not certain that they're the population problem inside the prisons either. I think there's some other issues there because last time I checked, the vast majority of people in the prison population are citizens, or actual American citizens. So there's a segment to that, but I'm not convinced on that. And the other part is if they've committed a criminal offense here, is the best thing to take them and cut them loose free in their own country? I mean, is that a punishment for you?
Not our problem.
Well, yeah, it is. It really is. And let me give you the example. The late Rachel Morin that you brought in. He had killed someone in El Salvador and then came here. So if we take him and instead of trying him for murder and giving him the appropriate punishment, if we go and take him to El Salvador, what do you think's going to happen?
That's El Salvador's problem.
Not
but
necessarily.
if we had a stronger border, we wouldn't have to worry about him coming back.
Here's the thing, though, is they'll come back. The idea is that they won't come back is kind of silly. And again, the idea that if we had a stronger border, that he wouldn't come back. I again disagree with that, because we've had strong borders and weak borders over the course of my life. The one thing that's been a constant is illegal
strong borders.
Is an illegal immigration. Did we have a strong border under Trump?
Not as strong as it needs to be.
No, but that wasn't my question, sir.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as strong as we need to be.
No, but did we have a strong border?
No, not to where it needs to be.
No. That's a qualification. I asked whether or not it was strong. I would assert again.
I don't know why we have to jump and say it's either strong or not strong. It's a degree process.
Yeah, it is a degree, and it was stronger under Trump than it is under Biden. Did it stop illegal immigration? No. There isn't a single time
compared to where we are now.
There isn't. Hang on. There isn't a single time in my life that any border policy has stopped illegal immigration. The idea that the border policy, et cetera, is going to is a fallacy. It's not going to, based on the economic, political, and other motivations contained inside. It's not going to stop. But, just like the reason that we can't stop the drugs. We had a war on drugs. We're still having drugs pour.
It was better back then.
But we still had drugs pouring over the border. It didn't stop. So I know, but the idea that it's going to stop isn't. So the idea that if we take the murderer back to El Salvador, that there is no possible way that he can return to America to kill more people is a fallacy. You know where he can't kill more American citizens that are innocent? When he's in our prison system. That's where he can't do it.
We've got to pay for this guy to be in our prison systems for the rest of his life because a bunch of Democrats don't want to execute anybody?
No, I just want to know what you want to do, because the idea that if we take him outside of our borders and drop him off, that he's no longer a threat, I disagree with.
No, look, there's different levels of crime. If you're a murderer, send him back to El Salvador where he committed a murder. And I think the people in El Salvador will go, we'll put him in jail.
Maybe, maybe not. Again, do you trust the El Salvador justice system? For me, that country is fairly corrupt. If he has someone that is a benefactor, the dude pays off everyone and the dude's free. It doesn't prevent him from coming back here and killing more people. I mean, it's like the idea of, it's not like a spider in your house. You don't take the spider outside and go, goodbye, spider. We're not going to see you anymore. The spider has every motivation at times to come back in the house in certain cases. So that's what we have to be careful of. Emptying out the prison, taking the prisoner and sending it back doesn't work.
But then we're not deporting criminals at all.
Yeah, in some ways, no, but it depends on what the criminals are doing, and it depends on what the gangs are doing. And that's the problem. When we deport the criminals, they have all the motivation to come back. Yes, this is a problem. Yes, absolutely. And that's going to be part of the problem with the boomerangers that Trump's going to face. Yes, they're going to be people that are going to be deported 3, 4, 5 times. Yes, and it has happened here.
The guy that got in a car accident over on 285 had been sent back to Mexico 6 times.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely. Yes. And that's why our immigration process is the thing that we need to tighten up.
No, the border. Just put some turrets down there. All right.
But again, the problem with that, I understand that and it feels good emotionally, but crossing the border can't be a capital offense. That's the problem you get into, is the idea that you're going to shoot and kill people that are trying to cross the border. That's a different moral, ethical argument. And in America, it's not legal. That's a problem.
At some point, you got to come up with a penalty for crossing illegally is worse than the benefit of being here illegally.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that.
Yeah, but you'll never get, I understand that everyone is like, we have to go put the troops at the border. That is one of the dumbest ideas that I have ever heard, because it is completely and totally emotional. It has no practicality behind it.
You don't think they'll stop if they see a bunch of dudes with guns there?
Nope.
I think they would.
Nope, not at all. And you know why? Do you remember that video where we saw, the large group of migrants standing across the fence with a bunch of the National Guardsmen behind them, and they just tore down the fence and ran forward? Remember that? They weren't afraid. They weren't afraid of the guys with the guns. The guys with the guns were standing right there in front of them. Were they afraid of them? No. And here's the reason why. Once those illegal migrants understand the person standing there with a gun can't shoot them, that gun ceases to be a deterrent.
Then what? Why even have borders at this point, Bill?
No, it's a matter of fixing it. It's not a matter of, and that's that.
Well, tell me how we fix it then.
Hang on. We've gone through this before, but that's the issue that I'm coming back to, is going down there and putting National Guards and putting troops down there makes you feel good because it looks good. It looks scary, but functionally it doesn't prevent the illegal immigration, because guess what the National Guards troops have to do there? When the person crosses illegally, they have to grab them and process them just like everybody else. They don't get to go, throw them back across the border. They don't get to do all the stuff that emotionally we feel like we want them to do.
I don't know why we're just dismissing it as emotional. I think we're trying to solve a problem here. Tell me what you think we do to stop illegal immigration.
Well, one thing, we have to change some of our economic policies and political policies for South American countries that create the incentive to come here. Second, we need to tighten up and quicken our asylum process. And some of this, we do have to tighten border security, and that would be more border patrol agents. I would look at strengthening police patrols down there, but that is not the function of the National Guard, because that's not really what they do well. So they shouldn't be doing that. And it is asylum processes. That's where the vast majority, not the vast majority, the largest segment of the immigrants into this country come in and claim asylum. That process has to be adjudicated quicker. Part of that could be one of the solutions, but it's a difficult solution, would be to have them stay in Canada or in Mexico when they come and claim asylum there. Or you change the rules and say they have to claim asylum at the embassy in the country in which they reside.
Right.
But
we had that, didn't we?
But there's a problem with that, because the issue is this. Let's say that you are so afraid for your life that you're trying to claim asylum. Let's say that you have a legitimate claim, okay? Let's just assume it's a legitimate claim, that you're afraid that whatever's going on, there's gang members, there's something else, that people are coming and they're going to kill you and your family. Coming to the embassy and the embassy going, "Thank you, we'll process your claim, please go home." That doesn't solve the problem either. And that's going to be the problem with claiming asylum at the embassy in the country, is you're not removing them from that situation. So unfortunately, probably the most effective way at that point is to set up some sort of a camp or refugee process at the borders. And that would be both in Mexico and in Canada. That's probably where it's most effective, because you don't want to take those asylum seekers if they're not going to be adjudicated quickly and release them into the country. That is one of the largest mistakes that we make. If we want to find out why we have this executive order for Biden and why we have illegals that are married to American citizens, that's part of it. Because some of them came here claiming asylum, and their cases weren't adjudicated properly. So now, whether or not they're asylum seekers legitimately or not doesn't matter, because they're married to an American citizen and they're gonna stay.
All right, my turn.
Yep.
You have no right to be an American. There's no global human right to be an American. We have no responsibility to take everybody that comes here, and the current process has now resulted in 10 million illegal people, including many, and we have no idea, young men of military age that are a direct threat to the national security of this country. And until the punishment for crossing the border illegally outweighs the benefit of becoming an American illegally, right? Living in this country, benefiting from all the great things that come from being in this country, we're never going to solve this problem. All right. I want to get to Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for decades. Dan is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. He has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm. For serious cases, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right, when we come back, the governor of Utah's got a strong message from Mike Johnston. Knock it off. Quit sending illegal immigrants to Salt Lake City. Is Mayor Mike Johnston just a big hypocrite? He's built some of his political success on the idea that he's serving both immigrants and the citizens of Denver, but is he just shipping them out? We'll get to this and more, and your calls. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. President Vladimir Putin has received a warm welcome after arriving in North Korea, his first visit to the secretive country in more than 24 years. Chris Gilbert has the story.
Well, North Korea literally rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Kim Il-sung Square, where he and Kim Jong-un took in a welcome ceremony and a gala performance before getting down to business, a meeting between delegations from the two countries, followed by about 90 minutes of one-on-one talks between the two leaders focused on security issues. Vladimir Putin has vowed to create a trade relationship between the two countries, which, as he says, cannot be touched by the West, but the U.S. maintains its assertion that the relationship is one of North Korea supplying munitions to Russia to prolong the war in Ukraine.
With just over a month to go until the start of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, Ralph Lauren has unveiled the official Team USA uniforms. The US designer says the signature red, white and blue outfits take inspiration from the host city, where, quote, fashion and sport will collide on the world stage with a global audience. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Are things going so well in America that we absolutely need to embrace illegal immigration? Here's Louis C.K., the kind of disgraced comedian. He's a bit of a creep, but he had a weird take on this.
But my feeling is they should open it, the border, and just let them pour in, let everybody pour in. And then the answer, which is, well, then there'll be all these problems. Yes, there should be. It shouldn't be so great here, is what I'm saying. In America, it shouldn't be. It's a weird thing to sequester a certain group of people and try to keep upping their lifespan and their lifestyle, and just keep trying to increase that for this group of people. And then this pressure of people trying to come in so they can enjoy it. And then it gets worse and worse down here. I mean, I'm not in Canada. It's really just from down here. There's something wrong with that. That's not a system that's working. And it forces people to do cruel things to other people. There's a lot of people that die so Americans can be safe. They're just dying, weddings that are drone bombed in Yemen because a guy said something that might have resulted in American insecurity. Not even like definite American deaths, but like just so we can breathe a little easier. Folks die. And folks do labor in unsafe places so that we can keep the prices where we like them. There's so much about American life that other people pay for. That's part of it. But also, it's not good for us either. It's not a good way to live in a gated community. If you let folks pour in like any other wave, it'll kind of slosh. And then things will be different. I don't know, like what'll really happen? A bunch of people, like, will they just come with knives and start killing everybody? I don't think so.
It's like, where do I even start with that?
Yeah.
All right. Things are too nice here, especially in liberal enclaves like Beverly Hills and San Francisco.
I'm certain that
gated communities.
I'm certain after the fallout from things that Louis C.K. did, that he felt that everybody was way too nice to him. Certain that's what he felt, that we were all being way too nice about what happened to him. Certain that was his perspective. I'm absolutely certain that one. Sure, Louis.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, he was found to be quite a creep.
Yeah, just
when it comes to the ladies.
Yeah, not surprisingly, some of these stand-up comedians do have some things broken inside of them. That's kind of what gives voice to that. Unfortunately, then in interpersonal relationships, you don't always make the best choices. And there is a series of stand-up comedians that can reinforce all of those bromides that just
Bill
doing
Cosby.
things bad. Yeah, there's so many things that just asking people to do things, saying things, and again, in using the that lever of power, where I'm higher up the food chain than you are, and what power and advantage does that give me?
So let's fact check him real quick.
Yeah,
are we dropping bombs in, what did he say, Yemen?
Well,
because someone said something about us.
No, I mean, again, it's an inelegant thing, but what he's talking about is the drone strikes and innocents that are killed in some of the drone strikes, and some of those have been, of course, you get the bad guys when they're out in the open, and some of them had been done at celebrations and with other family members.
Because they said something? Is it because they said something? Because they're actually coordinating attacks against America?
His thing is going to be, well, he said that he hates America, and he said he wants to do this, and he said he wants to do this, and so again, it's inelegant. But no, I doubt there's anybody out there that is being drone striked because they said something. But again, he's trying to make a point that we are overly aggressive with that type of a thing. Yeah.
Now, I don't disagree with him on the mining stuff, but that's mostly for like, electric car batteries, isn't it? I mean, there's the Congo and all the mining and all that stuff.
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Couldn't we just put like Coloradans to work in oil and gas fields?
Not the same way, and especially when you're looking at some of the oils and the minerals. And the other part is we could, if we wanted to pay more for the oil and gas, because that would be the other part too, is it would be more expensive, because that's why we go to those other countries. If it was cheaper for Apple to make their phones here, they wouldn't be in China. And that's part of the reason that they make them in China, is because of those economies of scale. But the other part that I think he misses is he talks about, and this is the part where I'm like, wait, Louis, you were close to something there. And then you totally missed the point, is he talks about consolidating the power and the wealth for a group up top. And that was his core kind of complaint, is that This is all done to protect the individuals that have the power and the wealth up top that I complain about as well. And then his solution is, let's just let a whole bunch of people in. No. How about we deal with the issue that you're actually mad about, which is where he talks about the people at the top consolidating the wealth and the power and basically letting everybody else fight it out. Adding more people to that system isn't going to make the system better. And so that was the part that I looked at, and I'm like, you don't know really what you're complaining about, do you, Lewis? I mean, I understand where you're going with this, but the complaint that you have and your solution to it doesn't work. Doesn't work at all.
I'm with you. Some people are calling it immigration, like we did with critical race theory, critical immigration theory.
Yeah.
Basically, it's too nice here.
Yeah.
We need to force and lower everybody else's standards because it's just too nice in America.
Yeah.
All right.
And he was mad about it being nice for the rich people, not for the average person that can't afford a home. And then his solution is to add more poor people. That doesn't fix the problem.
But what are they going to come with?
Yeah.
Knives? Well,
Yes.
if you're Rachel Morin and Laken Riley, yes, that is exactly what happened. All right. Want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Life in Colorado is awesome this time of year, but not so much if you've got joint pain in your knees or shoulders. The good news is that QC Kinetics is here with the most advanced treatment using regenerative medicine. What is regenerative medicine? Look, I've got close family members in my life, my family I care about. Surgery is the last thing you want to put them under when they're in their 70s and 80s. So why not try something like QC Kinetics that offers regenerative medicine, which encourages and harnesses the healing power from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. So many of our listeners have done this, and they are so grateful they're pain-free. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. Look, as we get older, it's all about movement, guys. You stop moving, you get sedentary. That's when your health really starts to decline. This is the future of medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can get you started with a free consultation. QC Kinetics has clinics in Aurora and Superior. If your shoulder or back is always hurting, if it hurts to walk or lift something, you need to check this out. You can get lasting relief. Do it now so you can enjoy the Colorado summertime like you deserve. Next generation joint relief is here at QC Kinetics, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986. Get a free consultation, 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. Up next, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, Billy, let's do You Choose the News.
All right, yes, it is that time of the morning where we take a diversion from the real stuff going on and play the silly little game known as everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. I've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories right here in my hands about us humans and given them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. And remember, we are not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They're a wonderful, upstanding mother-son company that will come to your house, and they will solve your clutter problems. Kitchen, bath, garage, whatever it is, they'll solve the clutter issues and give you peace of mind. The one thing they can't do is fix the brokenness inside of my brain that leads us to do You Choose the News. That's for some other day, and the psychologist. But check them out at rollemoutshelves.com, a free estimate. All righty, Jeff and Blake Olson from the newsroom. Here are your headlines this morning, sirs. Headline number 1, teenage boys very disappointed. Headline number 2, excuse for rude behavior. Headline number 3, keep colleagues hydrated. And headline number 4, treasonous recycling. Your choice, Mr. Hunt.
Let's see what those teenage boys are up to.
Yeah, teenage boys are really, really disappointed about what happened at Alamo Plaza this previous Saturday afternoon because things didn't go off as planned. It was really disappointing. There was supposed to be a grand celebration of Earth, life, everything wonderful that we do outdoors with the World Naked Bike Ride. Yes, at Alamo Plaza, people were supposed to meet for the World Naked Bike Ride, a series of nationwide events where bare-butted cyclists protest oil dependency and body shame everybody. Well, sad thing is a bunch of teenagers showed up and no naked people. Yeah, no one showed up for the naked bike ride. They're in Alamo, so I'm just saying, kind of a...
So they were there.
Well, there were a lot of people that were there. I'm just saying there were a lot of people there. I saw some screenshots. I'm assuming some of the teenagers were there to see the nakedness.
Right.
But no one
and
showed up to be
nobody
naked.
was, not even another dude pulling the Will
not
Ferrell.
even,
Let's go streak the quad.
Yes, not even, and not at all. Which again, I never understood why it's hot and it's like 90 degrees in Denver. Why would you do that? And have you tried to ride the bike naked? You fall off. It gets slippery. I'm just saying.
Seat hurts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You get a lot of baby powder. All right, we got to stop this before it gets more embarrassing. All righty, Blake Olson in the newsroom. Your choice, sir. An excuse for rude behavior, keeping colleagues hydrated, or treasonous recycling.
Excuse for rude behavior.
Yes, this is just an excuse for rude behavior. That's what people are accusing Dr. Leslie Dobson after her video on TikTok has been viewed more than 11 million times. She says, ladies, whatever you do when you're shopping, don't put those carts back in the rack. It's stupid. Don't do it.
Oh, boy.
Leave it there in the parking lot. And everyone's getting mad at her. But
they should.
You know why?
She's prego.
Dr. Leslie knows a forensic psychologist, and she said that if someone is going to attack you in the parking lot, they're going to do it when you're returning the cart. They've seen where your car is. They've seen where your car is. They know you have your keys. They know that you're disarmed, and you're going to go put the cart away. They have got a window of opportunity to approach you and get to you before you get back to your car and take control. She said the last thing you should do, women, ever inside of a parking lot is to put the cart away because you're opening yourselves up for an attack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great information.
I know. Isn't that okay? Final choice this morning, Jeff. I got like 10 seconds.
Hydration.
Yes, hydration. Teresa, this is hydration. In Vermont, a state lawmaker is now being investigated because she'd been pouring water into a colleague's bag during meetings. He'd hang his bag up. She'd come up with a cup of water and pour it inside. Funny thing is, they've known each other since they were kids, and they go to the same church. Yeah, that's
Republican
it.
doing it to a Democrat, too. All right,
Yes.
you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Wednesday, June 19th, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. In just a second, we're going to cover this story. Utah governor blasting Denver mayor for sending immigrants to Salt Lake City.
You were just sharing. It's sharing. That's all we were doing. Just wanted to share. We were taught in kindergarten. If you bring enough for everybody, you share.
Goodness that comes with it. Mayor Mikey, you remember getting up in front of all the cameras, bragging about how he has figured it out. I got the formula, baby, to solve all this illegal immigrant. We have benefited the city of Denver by blending illegal, legal. Everybody's together. We're all holding hands, and people are happy and singing songs. Not so much secretly. Mayor Mikey Johnston sending those immigrants up to Salt Lake City. The governor's had enough of it. By the way, Wallet Hub coming out with the best and worst managed cities. Guess where Denver falls on that? We'll get to all of that and more in just a second. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 55 and mostly cloudy in Denver on Juneteenth, expecting highs in the low 70s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, a 13-year-old boy who's charged with murder and attempted murder in connection with a shooting on an RTD bus, has pleaded guilty. The shooting happened in Denver earlier this year and claimed the life of 60-year-old Richard Sanchez. The 13-year-old will be sentenced on July 18th. Charges have been reduced for the trucker accused of causing the deadly crash near Conifer last week. Ignacio Cruz Mendoza initially faced charges of vehicular homicide and assault, but those have been reduced to 1 count of careless driving resulting in death and 3 counts of careless driving resulting in injury. Officials say Cruz Mendoza lost control of his semi on US 285 and lost a load of heavy metal pipes, killing one other driver and injuring several others. The Alphabet Mafia continues to attack the great baker, Jack Phillips. This time, it's the case of a gender transition cake, and the Colorado Supreme Court is taking it under advisement and not ruling right now. You know what? I love listening to a guy named Vince Everett Ellison, and he reminded me last night that Obamacare set the foundation for all this transition stuff.
If you need a sex change operation also, they'll do the same thing. They'll pay for the operation and they'll pay for your hormone pills in perpetuity. So guess where the incentive is now in the pharmaceutical industry? To make as many of these people as they possibly can so they can get paid. You didn't see that coming, did you? Do you think that these cats in the pharmaceutical industry are going to cheat themselves out of money? You think they want less money or no money?
And we are paying for all this craziness years later. Thank you, Obamacare, for that. Go buy some cookies from Jack today. Anderson Aldrich, the man who opened fire in a Colorado Springs nightclub, admitted Tuesday the attack 2 years ago was a hate crime. Aldrich was given 55 life sentences in the federal case to run concurrent with the 5 life sentences from the state trial. President Biden celebrating more amnesty, and then another special Biden moment.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas, as well as Secretary Becerra.
Okay. And Trump derangement syndrome alive and well on The View with guest Rachel Maddow.
He is so vindictive that he will go after, however he has to, through the IRS maybe, or even, through sponsors to get us off the air maybe, or you. How seriously should we be taking that?
Well, so I was asked, am I worried about me? And my answer was, I'm worried about all of us. I'm no more worried about me than I am worried about everybody in the country. And I think it's bad to have somebody saying, give me as much power as you can in this country so I can use it to go after other Americans. So I can use it to go after these subhuman internal enemies and I'll destroy them.
Like Catholics. I mean, the irony is so thick here. It's amazing. But okay, so all right, I'm going to take a moment here, Blake, because this fires me up, baby. Fired up. All right. Rachel Maddow never saw ratings in her life like when Donald Trump was president. Okay. So she's not going to suffer other than she's going to make more money than she ever has in her entire life because of Donald Trump's second term. And this dude was already the president. All right. What great restrictions of free speech were implemented when he had his first 4 years in office? Give me a break. The only time they're going to get the viewers they want is when this guy is in office crying like somehow they're going to be hauled off into a gulag. Give me a break.
I mean, And The View, you talk about ratings. I mean, The View will go up. Rachel Maddow will. Shoot, you're exactly right. I mean, she's gonna receive more credit and admiration. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. They're gonna keep on doing it, no doubt. It's just so funny. All right, what do we have? Love this song. Talking baseball. The Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, has passed away at the age of 93. Mays played 20 plus years, most of them with the Giants, and was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. A final report on Colorado's third plane crash this month could take up to 2 years. NTSB investigators say they have a lot to look into. Broward County officials confirm the small plane had engine problems when it went down at a mobile home park in Steamboat. It burst into flames, destroying 2 trailers and killing both people on board. They have since been identified as Dan Dunn and Jessica Melton.
Ball game in the balance right here. Fly ball, right field, hit deep, did you? Gone! Teo, a hero! The Dodgers lead.
Dodgers come back to rock the Rockies at Coors. Man, that was at Coors. You heard the crowd. That just shows you that people just love going to watch baseball. It's an event. I mean, the Rockies lose to the Dodgers, but the fans, guess what? They keep on coming. Doesn't matter. 11-9. Series continues tonight at Coors.
Connor McDavid with 17.3 to go sends this series back to Alberta. They will indeed drag the Cats back to Edmonton.
Stanley Cup Finals heads back to Edmonton, and the Oilers survive Florida 5-3. Panthers lead it 3-2. 52 in Arvada, 51 in Englewood, and 55 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for the unseasonably cool temperatures to continue for another day, but temperatures start to go up tomorrow. Highs today will only be around 70 to low 70s. There will be a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing late this afternoon and evening, maybe a couple tonight, lows 50s. Not as cold. Mid to upper 80s Thursday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Friday, mid-80s, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Near 90 by Saturday, low to mid-90s by Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
The mayor of Denver secretly sending illegal immigrants up to Utah, and he's had enough of it. The Denver Gazette reporting Utah governor blasts Denver mayor for sending immigrants to Salt Lake City. Utah Governor Spencer Cox blasted Denver Mayor Mike Johnston's administration on social media, saying it's, quote, completely unacceptable, unquote, to bus immigrants who crossed the southern border illegally and ended up in Colorado's most populous city. Wonder why? Why would they do that? Maybe, Mayor Mikey, it was the giant sign our city put up there that said, "We heart immigrants." Anyways, they're angry. They're being sent up there. We recently learned, the governor said, that the Democrat mayor of Denver has been sending illegal immigrants to Utah without proper notification or approval. This is completely unacceptable and follows on the failed catch and release policy of the Biden administration. Every state has received illegal immigrants, and Utah's resources are completely depleted, Cox said on social media. All 50 states, including Utah, are now border states due to the failed immigration policies of President Biden and Congress. I think it goes further than that. It's the failed immigration policies of Denver. But he says Denver did not consult with us prior to instigating this practice. I mean, he's frustrated by it. Denver must end this practice, and Congress and the president must do their job and fix the untenable situation. I think what gets me, Billy, and I'm going to go to the phone lines here in just a second, is just the hypocrisy. Because, look, if the mayor was going, this is a serious problem with Denver, and I've run out of resources. I got to just put them in other states. That'd be one thing. But this dude, the mayor of Denver, has gone out there and said he has now developed the handbook on how to deal with illegal immigration. We have implemented them into our culture. We have provided for them. They're working in the city of Denver, but then secretly out the back door, he's putting them on buses and sending them to Salt Lake City.
Oh, I think it's great. I think, again, it exposes hypocrisy on all sides. This to me is a wonderful, wonderful example, because it exposes the Denver process as not necessarily being that inclusive, not wanting to absorb everybody, that yes, there is a limit as to what you can handle, and you've got to ship some of them out of here. But I also find it incredibly funny that people that were cheering Abbott and DeSantis, yes, show those liberals what they're getting. Yeah, take those and bust those migrants. Now we're like, hey, can't bust those migrants here. I think that's funny. I definitely ironic that the Utah mayor may be very, very happy when Abbott and DeSantis were doing it, I would guess.
To Martha, Virginia.
Yeah, not so much. Now, not so much. So, yeah, now not so much when we start bussing them around. When the buses come to your cities, we're not very happy about them, which, again, that's the issue. The issue is it's an influx of citizens, legal or illegal or asylum seekers, and how do we deal with them? And the only real way you can deal with them are two. Either you give them a lot of free stuff, and that means the government has to print a lot more money or take money from other people, or you need to get them into the system and working. That is the only two possible solutions.
Why can't you just send them home? All right, we're going to get into this again, Billy.
Because,
but let's go.
Some of them are claiming asylum. You can't just throw them home if they claimed asylum. And that's the problem is, again, the largest segment, not 50% plus, but the largest segment of illegal immigrants, or just immigrants, are asylum seekers. And then you have a segment that overstay visas, and then you have people that cross the border. If we sealed up the border today and stopped it, we wouldn't stop more than 50% of the illegal immigration in this country. It simply wouldn't stop. That's the problem.
But I don't want to have that debate. Let's go to Marcus and Aurora. I want to involve some others in this conversation. Marcus, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
It's always good to talk to you guys.
What do you think of this Denver mayor sending those illegals up to Salt Lake City?
I just wanted to tell this real short story. And it goes, it's like a dark secret. It goes up to Hancock, too. A few years ago, I was sent down to Salt Lake City. And we could fly down there or take a company truck. And we took the truck down there with Colorado license plates. And we didn't realize it at the time. And a lot of people in Colorado, you could ask some other callers about this. But we went down to the conference, and when we drove in, the people really, they were pissed. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And they were talking about the mayor sending the homeless and the legal immigrants to Utah because it's cheap and close. I'm thinking, damn. So wherever you went with that truck, or you went to a restaurant, you always had to use your ID if you got a beer and meal, and they give you the coldest look. And a few of them would talk to you. It's like that old commercial, Old Pace, and with El Paso, and where's it made? New York City, get a rope. That's the way it felt down there. It was really hostile.
I mean, look, Marcus, is this evidence of liberalism and leftism and their bad ideas just pouring into other cities that don't even want it? Right? They've ruined Denver. I want to get your reaction to this. Wallet Hub coming up with the best and worst managed cities. The very bottom. Once again, the very bottom, San Francisco, but Denver's only a few points above that. When you look at Colorado cities, according to Wallet Hub, and they rate the cities based upon the amount of tax revenue versus the amount of services for their citizens. Okay? Some of the best ones are in Idaho, Wyoming, Louisiana, even Vermont breaks the top 5. But the worst are like Denver, San Francisco, Flint, Michigan, New York City, Oakland, California. I mean, leftism is like this just disease that destroys the cities that they're in, and then they just kind of pour out into other cities, and now Salt Lake City's got to deal with it.
That's 100% right. But also remember, New York City and Chicago talked to Johnston too and said, do not be sending any more people up here. We don't have the resources. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're exactly
I agree
right.
with you. I mean, Colorado's gotten really bad.
Marcus.
And you don't want to be your neighbors, Wyoming, Utah, and them all upset with you, New Mexico. We don't need that.
Marcus, what do you think that we should be doing in the state of Colorado? How do we fix this problem?
I wish I had an answer. God, this is bad. I mean, the only thing is there's going to have to be some type of deportation. But the ones people that have been here working 10 years, and established in schools and that, there's got to be something done for them. But I really don't have the answers.
Right, Marcus, now talk about the idea that, the people that have been here for a while, that there has to be something done for them. That's kind of what Joe Biden's executive order is doing. Is these people that have been here for 10 years plus that are in a relationship, married more times than not to an American citizen or someone that has brought in their child illegally over the border and then has since gotten married. It would allow them to stay. Now we're hearing in some circles, especially conservative circles, this is awful. This is horrible. This is just, a backdoor to get them to be legal citizens. Would you agree? But you said there's got to be something to do for them. I mean, are you actually more in favor of what Joe Biden is saying based on that executive order? And this is, and the reason I'm asking is because this is the difficult question: is everyone's in favor of no illegals, everyone's in favor of deporting them. But when it gets down to the actual discussions as far as whom, where, and how, it gets really complicated and really sticky. What do you think about Joe Biden's executive order?
Okay. I remember when Ronald Reagan was in a similar predicament there, that he put a limit on it. And you might have people around you down there, maybe around the radio station, and same situation. And they're your neighbors, they're your friends. So there's got to be something done for them. But the new arrivals and everything, and that's a different story. They got to do backgrounds. They got to do everything on them.
Marcus, I don't think it's that complicated. I'm sorry. I can't go to England. I can't go to France. I feel like there's a funny quote to finish that, but I can't go to those countries and get a bank account. I can't get a driver's license. I can't get an apartment to live in. I can't buy a house if I'm there illegally. I have watched this issue fester as I have grown up, going back to the very first time I voted for George W. Bush in 2000. We have not solved this problem because we're not willing to take it seriously. Shut down the ability to get a job. Shut down the ability to get a bank account. Shut down the ability to get a loan. shut down the ability to purchase a car or get a house or an apartment or any type of government benefit, and these people will leave. We don't have to jump to the idea that it's Elian Gonzalez. We're going to be kicking in doors with guns and all that stuff. Every other country in this world does not allow people to purchase homes and rent and those types of things if you're here illegally. And yet in this country, we put out giant signs and then wonder why we have an illegal immigration problem.
But they do if they claim refugee status, which again is the problem.
And they're abusing that claim.
I know, but that's the issue. Is you can. If you're in England, if you're in France, and you claim refugee status, you're allowed to purchase a house, rent a house, get a job, open a bank account. Same as it is here. Yeah, you are, and that's the issue. That's really the broken point.
I don't think that's the issue. I think we're way too nice to illegal immigrants, giving them way too much, and then we're shocked that people show up, and then you act like Mayor Mike Johnston and put them on buses because you don't have the money at the end of the day. So we're just going to send them somewhere else.
But as soon as someone, Marcus, you understand? As soon as someone claims asylum, they're now technically temporarily a legal citizen. They no longer have illegal status. That's the problem. And that's why it comes back to the asylum seekers and the refugees, because as soon as you claim that, regardless of the status of your claim, you now are temporarily a citizen.
And then the other side is there's a lot of them that will join the military, become a citizen too. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Marcus. Let's explore that just for a sec, you and me and Jeff. The idea of the people that are seeking asylum coming across the border and wanting them to be, I guess you'd say, blended into American society by making them part of our military. Isn't that the scary boogeyman that we're being told right now, that we have all of these, quote, military-aged men that are crossing the border? So I'm not certain that the solution would be to take what some people are saying is a scary aspect, military-aged men crossing the border, and then putting them into our military. If your assumption is that these military-aged men are coming here to cause problems, maybe we don't put them in our military and give them guns to do that. It's an idea. It's a thought. But, what do you think, Marcus? What's your idea about conscription? Do you think that would be an effective way to manage immigration?
Not really, but I'm just... They've done it for centuries.
Yeah.
People from other countries joining into the military, and we really haven't had no problems. They'll find out real fast once they start checking on them and discipline and everything. That separates them real fast.
The idea, what I like about it, and the only thing that would get me to the idea of conscription would be the background check. Because the military would be much quicker, much more efficient, and much more thorough than any other institution I would trust right now in our government. True. So if that was the issue, that we could then, weed out all the asylum seekers, I think we could do that, man. That's a good idea. Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Marcus's line will be open 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Bill, you remember we talked about the bet that was taking place between
Jurinsky,
Aurora and Mike Johnston. And I think you have provable evidence that even Aurora is being better managed than Denver. So if you're wondering what we talked about the fact that Mayor Mike Johnston of Denver was saying we are going to integrate illegal immigrants into our city, our society. They're going to work, all that stuff. And Mayor Mike Kaufman saying we're going to prioritize, and this was Danielle Jurinsky too, the city council of Aurora saying we're going to prioritize our citizens. Well, Wallet Hub came out with the results on which city's being managed better. We'll get to that and more, but I want to talk to you first about Dr. Mike and Rocky Mountain Dental Group. With all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I've got some bad genetic things there. The amount of work I have to do, I know good dentists, and Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group is a great dentist. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If you've got receding gums, It's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The procedure involves just making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335. That's 303-233-1335, or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. All right, how's Aurora doing? Being managed according to Denver? We'll get to that and more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. Today, June 19th, marks Juneteenth in the United States. In New York, Haley Bianco has more on the federal holiday.
Since 2021, June 19th has been known as Juneteenth. It's become a day to mark the emancipation of enslaved Black Americans. President Joe Biden made it a federal U.S. holiday just 3 years ago. Juneteenth rose in prominence across the country following 2020 protests over the police killings of African Americans. Now, in its fourth year as a federal holiday, all U.S. government employees and any private businesses that participate have a day off from work. The day is also observed solemnly to honor those who suffered from slavery.
The CEO of Boeing has apologized to families of victims who died in crashes involving the Boeing 737 MAX. David Calhoun was on Capitol Hill as part of a hearing being held from lawmakers into the safety practices of the Seattle-based plane maker. Before making his opening statement to the bipartisan committee, Calhoun turned and faced families gathered in the committee room and said, quote, "I apologize for the grief we have caused. We are focused on safety." And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. All right, Wallet Hub out with the best and worst run cities in America. Recent years has been a true test of the effectiveness of local leadership, they say, from public health crises, COVID-19 pandemic to higher than average inflation and other issues like elevated homicide rates. Wallet Hub put together and compared about 148 of the largest U.S. cities to reveal which among them are managed the best. They constructed a quality of services score made up of 36 metrics grouped into 6 service categories, which we measured against the city's per capita budget. Bottom line, how much money are they taking in and how good are their services? Everything from financial security to education, health, safety, transportation for their residents. Well, it goes pretty much how you think it would. Colorado Springs, out of all the Colorado cities, Colorado Springs ranks 46th out of the nation, then followed by Aurora at 69, and then way down Denver at 141. And I wonder, I want to get a sense from our Denver listeners here. Do you think that's right? I think that's where Denver should land in this. Near the bottom with San Francisco, Oakland, Gulfport, Mississippi, New York, Flint. Guess who's above us in the city of Denver? Los Angeles, Detroit, Philadelphia, Sacramento, Memphis, Kansas City. They're all managed, even Baltimore. Baltimore managed better than the city of Denver. Or is the city of Denver pretty good? You like it? Are you happy to be living here? I think they're running out of money. I think they're biting off more than they can chew. They're trying to serve illegal immigrants. You saw what the true cost was. Mikey Johnston saying, well, it's actually around $90 million. No, it's not. It's actually probably closer to $300 million in light of all the new education spending. So I'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 303-696-1976 or 1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. By the way, you can see our smiling faces if you go to YouTube, X, or Rumble, type in 710 KNUS, and check us out there. See what Billy really looks like.
Yeah, not a good thing. Yeah. Yeah, and so check
I
us
don't
out
have
online.
horns. I don't have horns.
No, that's
What
me.
do you think of that, Billy? Or is that ranking right? Do you think Denver's ranked? Let's do the Colorado comparison first.
Yeah.
You think Colorado Springs, Aurora, better managed than the city of Denver?
Oh, 110%. Yes. Yeah. And I don't have anything against Mike Johnston per se. It's just poorly managed. I mean, and that has been going on for decades. And I think that he has some okay proposals, and I think there's some things that are wrong-headed, and that's okay. But I'm sure he thinks there's some things about that about me as well. So that's fine. But as far as efficacy, and when you're looking at standard of living, when you're looking at just the happiness of the citizens, the contentment of the citizens, Colorado Springs and Aurora are doing a better job. And I believe that if we would go out and talk to the average voter and say, okay, I got 2 places for you to move. You have a new job, and it's going to force you to move into these communities. Do you want to move into Denver? Do you want to move into Aurora? I submit at least 60% of the people we asked will move to Aurora, not Denver. And some of that's fair and some of that's not, because of the perception of Denver right now with the education system, the housing, the cost, and the crime and the homelessness, because it's the urban population center. So it will have more concentrations of homelessness and crime and drugs.
Dude, I got to tell you, Aurora's like one of the biggest turnarounds I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely. It really is.
I don't know. Maybe it's where I grew up in South Denver. Nice suburbs. Probably, honestly, one of the wealthiest parts of Denver.
You remember
and
the
Aurora
nickname.
Was like, yee.
What was the nickname? Do you remember the nickname when you were a kid? Oh, okay. So you didn't run across that. The nickname was Saudi Aurora. It was the idea that you're out in this desert, that a bunch of people, that nobody's out there, and that it was crime ridden, that this is where all of the gang members were. I know people that are in my demographics, I'm a little bit older than you, that still will say, you live in Aurora? I'm like, dude, I'm in Cherry Creek School District. I mean, you understand.
Yeah, right.
You understand. I mean, I am not in a wealthy part of the city in any way, shape, or form. The nice part about it is I am at the median. The neighborhood in which I am at is the exact median for what they look at as for housing prices and everything in Denver. We are at the neighborhood I'm in is the exact median. But it is a really, really popular neighborhood. And it has a great little school right near us. There are some issues, though, even inside of Cherry Creek. And it's interesting to see the expansion inside of Aurora. One of the largest growth centers in Denver right now is out near Southlands.
Yeah,
that's
right.
one of the largest places that's growing right now. Yeah.
So the turnaround, I think, has been led by conservatives getting control of the city council, and then Mayor Mike Kaufman coming in. Okay,
Kaufman made he was such a breath of fresh air.
Right.
And I have to say personally, I didn't think he was going to be as good at this job as he is.
Yeah.
I was looking at it as he was doing kind of the last victory lap that, hey, I'm winding down my political career. I've got one more thing I can do. Okay. I thought he was just going to be a sort of figurehead, and that is my mistake, not his. I didn't understand his need for service. I didn't understand that motivation inside of him and how it's driving him. And because of who he is, and, as the old guys say, the cut of his jib, because of that, he has been able to usher in a transformation. And those city council members, Steve the Beard, Jurinsky, everybody else, replacing the socialists, that also was a watershed moment in changing the direction of the city.
So there's two things that are about this that are really, really important.
Yeah.
First, Republicans, Dave Williams.
Yes.
This is how we win the state back.
Amen.
Quit jumping to big statewide races. And this is what I said to Dave when he became chairman of the Republican Party. We got to just start winning city councils, man. If we can prove that Republican leadership locally creates better communities for people, we will start to win this state back. So Dustin Zvonek, right? Great example.
Thank you. I totally forgot about this. I blanked on his name.
Right?
I'm thinking of Dustin. I couldn't remember last name until you said it.
Young,
there we go.
talented, great leader in the community.
Incredible
right?
guy. Yeah.
They are taking, and they literally ran a turnaround show on the city of Aurora.
Yeah.
So this is my second point. The sexiest thing you can do as a political leader right now, as a leader in your community, is to walk in and say, I'm going to put my people first. Mike Johnston's great failure, this is the failure of liberalism, of leftism, is to try to take everybody's problems upon yourselves and not deliver what was just for your own people, for your own citizens, putting them first. If politicians, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or anybody, what your political party platform is, if you can just get into power and say, I am going to deliver for the people who put me here first, then I actually think people are going to like what you do, and you're not going to be ranked 141 out of 148 Denver, Colorado. Just deliver for the people first in your community. This is why I think America First is going to be really appealing to voters this November. It's because it's like, Ukraine, all these foreign wars, illegal immigrants. Why are we always taking upon ourselves all these other issues when we can't even solve our own problems first? All right, let's go to the phone lines. Johnny, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Okay, I go to this park and I work out over here, and I've noticed I saw all these kids playing and having fun and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, hey, they got a summer program for the kids in the neighborhood. Well, then this black lady comes in and she says, do you know what, I can get a summer program for my kids? And I'm thinking, I thought your kids would be out there with those kids. So what he's doing is picking winners and losers, picking these kids over that kids, and not incorporating all kids in the neighborhood.
So, Johnny, was that a summer program for immigrant kids? I'm just assuming this, but I just want to ask the question.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
None of them speak English at all. Oh. Which, I could see, okay, you could have somebody bilingual there, working with the kids, and you have the English kids and mix them in if you want to integrate them into America. But it just seemed like this is the winners, you're the loser.
Oh, Johnny, that hurts. That hurts me personally, because one of the things that you said right there, you're exactly right, is the need for the integration between the kids. And this is the reason I'm going to say that this is so important. And I believe that what you're outlining is a huge problem as far as how we're dealing with the immigrant community, asylum seekers, legitimate, and illegitimate, is the lack of integration. Because in that summer program, it should be also offered for citizen kids, because what you want the American citizen kids there next to the immigrant kids, whether or not they're asylum seekers and it's legitimate or not, because it integrates them into, one, the culture, two, starts teaching them English. You can't integrate these kids and you can't get them ready for school in the fall. And again, regardless of status, they have to go to school and we need them in the classroom. And in order to do that, they need to know English. And having them in a summer program that only feeds their native tongue is a disservice to those kids. It's a disservice to the families, and it's a disservice to the citizens of Colorado, because those kids are going to be a problem when they get into school, because they're not going to be at grade level because they don't understand what the teacher's saying. It's a huge issue.
I take it another step level.
Yeah.
Because kids like to mix with they don't see the same prejudices as adults.
Exactly.
Maybe some of the American kids can learn a different language by communicating with these kids and bridging that gap as well.
Absolutely, because and we understand that when they are tiny little skulls of mush, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, that they work as sponges. Your ability to understand and absorb another language at that age is remarkable. Imagine this. Imagine, just per se, that the community that you were involved in had that summer program and offered it as a bilingual program. And the idea that, hey, your kid's going to get here and we're going to do this in English, but we're also going to have some stuff. And by the end of the summer, they may end up understanding a little bit more Spanish. They may have some conversational Spanish they have picked up just because of what we've been doing. And now they can communicate with other kids, other families in basic language skills that speak Spanish. And then you have the kids being able to speak English. And guess what happens when those kids go home? Those kids get to talk to their other family members, the moms and the dads that may not be as fluent, and they become the interpreters. They become the translators, and they help mom and dad with the English. The idea that it's a constrained immigrant-only program, and it is language intensive on their own native tongue, shows you, Johnny, and shows Jeff, and shows me, and you, the listener, why this is failing. This is a program that sets those kids up to fail. And then we wonder why they don't integrate. We wonder why they can't graduate. We wonder why we're spending so much time catching up as far as school. And then afterwards, when they get into the workforce, we wonder why we're still spending taxpayer money to subsidize what they have the ability to do. They are setting those kids back. It is a crime. And it's also a crime to the American citizens that are there whose taxpayers' money is going for that program, and they're not allowed access. The benefits to put everybody in that group is phenomenal. But then again, why would we want to do something smart and effective? That would be silly. We're talking about the government here.
Johnny, I appreciate the call. Johnny's line will be open 303-696-1971. Look, Westward rated the Jeff and Bill Show the top talk radio show in Denver, but they also rated our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration the top hair restoration company. So you know they're good. Everyone always asks, what makes Advanced Hair Restoration different? Allow me to share along with some details on, and get this, their once-a-year summer savings event. First off, Advanced Hair stands by the results, and their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. Lastly, Advanced Hair's Advanced FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. Quick, simple, and easy. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair's summer savings event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. You can check out before and afters at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com, 720-459-HAIR. hair. All right, we'll continue with your calls and text. Phone lines open. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Utah governor of blasting Denver mayor, saying stop sending illegal immigrants to us. But this is weird because I don't know why we would be sending them. We put out a big banner. We said welcome. And Mayor Mikey went out there and said, oh, my goodness, it's so great what we're doing. We've integrated all these illegal immigrants into the city. And I think he even said, like, we've written the manual on how to do this. And part of that manual is secretly busing them to the next city.
It's the kindergarten rule. We brought enough for everybody, so we're sharing. That's what it is. I mean, we taught that in kindergarten. That, if you have enough, you share with everybody. That's it.
Great.
We have enough,
to
sharing.
secretly send them to Salt Lake City without even telling them.
Yes, we're being nice. That's what it is.
Go to Joe in Arvada. Joe, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff. We're just instituting failure on a grand scale. This is the same thing that they did in affirmative action. You have a semi-competent government, brains full of mush, who decides, oh, we can help these poor individuals, these poor people, and we'll just create a program here. Everybody speaks Spanish. We'll exclude everybody else. But what we should be doing is elevating everyone by competition. Everyone speaks English. Everyone learns arithmetic, English, history, real history, math, and then be creative people that learn, that want to rise up to become leaders. Have you ever heard of a guy named Lonnie Johnston who invented the super soaker?
I've heard of the super soaker, yeah. And I heard how he invented it a little bit, but I don't know too much about him.
Well, he's a genius. And here is a kid who just went to school, and this is the same as Ben Carson. The guy went to school, his parents brought him up to succeed. You go to school, and, he made mistakes along the way. He wasn't a great second grader, but his parents stayed at it. They brought him to succeed because they encouraged his success and kept him at it. And then as the system saw that he was inventive and creative, he excelled. They didn't try to bring up everyone same level. This idea of just creating, this little pool of poor failures needs to be brought up. Oh, wait, over here there's some. What it does is it creates a society of mediocrity. We don't have geniuses in the society anymore that are inventing businesses, that are creative, that have incentive because they were brought up in this everybody gets a trophy atmosphere. Everybody has to have a special program that's under succeeding. That way, when you become an adult, you can fail and get nothing.
Set the bar high and allow people to naturally rise up and achieve it, or lower the standards for everybody. This is a natural break between the conservative and liberal worldview. Conservatives have no problem with naturally ordained hierarchies. If you're a brilliant person like Ben Carson, you should be able to rise up to the top. You should be able to be paid $350,000, $400,000 because you're a brilliant brain surgeon that can do a skill that very few people can. We have no problem with that. Whereas the left sees that as a problem, and they need to lower the standard for everybody else. Joe, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Hey, want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Life in Colorado is awesome this time of year, but not so much if you got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, back. The good news is that QC Kinetics is here with the most advanced treatments using regenerative medicine. What do I mean by that? Look, I've got family members that are older and their joints aren't working. The last thing you want to do is send them into surgery. Once you start slicing and dicing, it takes a long time to recover. QC Kinetics offers this regenerative medicine that harnesses the healing power from your own body to restore and repair your damaged joint tissue. So many of our listeners have done this, and they are so grateful they're pain-free. QC Kinetics can get you moving again, too, with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. This is the future of medicine. And the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can get you started with a free consultation. QC Kinetics has clinics in Aurora and Superior. If your shoulder or back is always hurting, if it hurts to walk or lift something, you need to check this out and you can get lasting relief. Do it now so that you can enjoy the Colorado summertime like you deserve. Next generation joint pain relief is here at QC Kinetics. 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986. Get a free consultation. Painfreecolorado.com. 303-900-8986. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking in the 8 o'clock hour with the attorney that represented Jack Phillips at the Colorado Supreme Court hearing yesterday. How did oral arguments go? What does he think is going to happen to Jack? And why does the left, seriously, man, decide like this little baker in a strip mall off of Wadsworth is worth now 3 lawsuits going all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court? Can't they just leave the dude alone in peace and be able to just run his bakery? Why is it continuing this way? We're going to get all of those details and more in the 8 o'clock hour. 9 o'clock hour. Peter Boyles back in studio. He's got a great piece on Alan Berg that was published in the Denver Post. We'll be asking him about the assassination
that was last
that
night.
Took place
40 years ago. Last night is when Gallenberg was gunned down here in Denver.
Unbelievable.
40 years ago. Everybody was waking up this morning. Talk radio, news radio, dealing with the loss.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Wednesday, June 19th, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news, we're going to be talking a little bit later in the hour with Jake Warner. He's senior counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom. He was making the oral arguments yesterday in the Colorado Supreme Court case against Jack. Now his third case, because that's what our government needs to be doing.
Again, it seems personal at this point, doesn't it?
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, of course it is. But it just seems, just even if you were saying, no, they actually have a concern. No, this just seems personal. And I love the anecdote you gave yesterday where you were talking with the LGBTQ activist. And they said, yeah, we picked the wrong guy. Because they thought he was going to be I hate the gays guy. And they picked the nicest guy in the world. A guy that is so committed to his religion. He doesn't go out and proselytize and yell and scream about the gays. He decides to not bake wedding cakes, which again is the largest segment for any cake shop out there. That is where you make the dough. And he decides, no, I am so confident and so comfortable in my religion that I will make this choice. And his shop survives. And that's because of Jeff, you. That's because you, the listener. And in some cases, me. Yes, I have bought some stuff since then from there. And again, a long time. I don't know if I told you this. Long time Masterpiece Cake Shop customer. He did the birthday cakes for my brother-in-law's 21st, 22nd, 23rd birthday before he passed away. And he made our wedding cake. And that's decades ago, long before these
Jack
lawsuits.
Phillips made
my wedding cake.
I mean,
he did our wedding cake. Yes.
I'm almost like a little speechless on it.
It is
I didn't know that.
beautiful. Yeah, absolutely stunning. People now still see the pictures and go, wow.
So you would be sympathetic to the idea that it's art.
Absolutely art.
Yeah.
110%. Now, do I think that the person putting the frosting down there at the King Supers is doing the art? No. No. They're about as much of an artist as I'm an artist. But Jack's an artist. Absolutely. What he does is art.
I'm impressed. I could not tell you who baked our wedding cake at all.
No way.
Don't even know. I didn't even taste it ahead of time.
I did the tasting. I did. But
did you?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm all in. I am all in. And here's the reason why. And we'll just sidetrack. I worked in food service and restaurants through college and did a little bit beforehand. So I have worked, I have worked base restaurants. I have worked at country clubs. I have worked at catering. I worked for a while as a driver for Epicurean right here in town. So I was a driver for them.
Working at a country club's got to be like close to the worst.
It is. It's a different environment.
Really?
And I'll tell you why.
I bet those people are so dang demanding.
Some are and some aren't. But here's the thing is you learn who they are. And the ones that you know to take care of, that's in fact, the country club where I worked at, one of the best people in the entire place was the family that owned the landfill. They were top notch, and they were looked down upon by some of the other wealthy people.
Else, yeah,
they were absolutely fantastic. Also connected to the mob, but that's beside the point. But they were fantastic people, and I spent a lot of time. I have worked over 350 weddings. Easily. I've got that under my belt.
Bro, you've got to have some stories.
Oh, yeah. Do I ever?
Do you have some Bridezilla stories?
I got some Bridezilla stories. I got some stuff with bartending. I got so many things. Competitions between certain families. And what it taught me were many things that worked and didn't work inside of weddings. So when my wife was planning our wedding, I was all in. I'm like, no, we got to do it this way. You do it this way. You do it this way. In fact, guess where we had our reception? For the wedding. This was something that my wife pulled the string. I didn't think she was going to be able to do it. And I went, oh, you are my favorite. I couldn't believe she pulled this off.
Impressive.
We had our wedding reception at the Museum of Natural History.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's
That
in
is a cool place in that big auditorium or
in
the big atrium
Yep,
there with like 3-story
Yep, and
ceilings.
the weekend afterwards, it was the G8 Summit in the very same place that we held our wedding reception.
That is next
the
level.
Very next the very next one. It was fantastic. It was really good. My wife pulled some strings, came there, and I'm like, how'd you do this? She goes, I asked them questions. And sure enough, they did it. And the best part about it was because
it was,
well, no, it didn't take any money at all. It was just conversation she had with the people.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, we can do this. We'll do this for you. Absolutely. And the best part about it is their caterers took care of the food. We brought in the cake, but everything else, Museum of Nature and Science and their top-notch chefs did the spread. It was a great find. That is something that I still owe my wife everything for. That was amazing.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
You know, that is the great
I married
trial by fire of your marriage. I don't want to say I just showed up at the wedding, but I pretty much just showed up at the
But
wedding.
my wife doesn't remember the food. She's like, did we have food at the wedding? I'm like, what? And of course, I'm going through the wedding going, okay, how does this look? And I'm going through all the stuff and figuring I was even looking and impressed with how they laid it out. Because again, I had to do that in both catering and in restaurant work. So I've set weddings up. So I look at the setup. I look at how you tilt the plates. I look at how the buffet line runs. I look at the spray. You know how far the chairs are apart. I'm very, but it's just because that's what I did. You know, it's just one of those things. I was like, and that's again, I married up. I do not deserve her in any way, shape, or form. So thank you, hon.
Here's a text message from Andrew. Why did Dave Williams have to say God hates flags? Why do you have to remind us that marriage is between one man and one woman? People are testing Jack's Bakery, right or wrong, as it is, because they genuinely believe in something just like you, just like him, and are standing up for it. It's just different than your beliefs, so it bothers you. He won the U.S. Supreme Court case, so who cares? He's the winner. People will continue to try and take him down. Do you think those are the same? Do you think those are the same? Because one seems to be making a point broader. And I don't know if I felt like there was somebody harassing a small gay restaurant or bar all the time over and over and over again and constantly suing them. I would feel like that maybe you could make the same analogy.
I don't know.
But Jack is not trying to. He's literally, I don't think has ever even posted anything on social media about his beliefs.
Yeah, I don't think he has.
He's
either.
quietly running a small business, and they're literally seeking him out too. At this point, it's bullying.
Yeah, it is a little bit of bullying, but I do see the texter's point about the fact that that his position should be celebrated more strongly. That you would assume that if you believe that God hates pride, then you should be mad at Jack for baking any cake for any sort of gay customer. Because of the customers, going out there and having a regular, then that would
Which
be
he does.
some of the conclusion.
He
does.
serves. I was there when he served.
He does.
Openly gay man.
Yeah.
No problem.
In fact, there is a well-known gay activist, not Valatril, a friend of the show, another one that I know, that the very first court case, he showed up within 48 hours and came down and said, listen, Jack, we are going to disagree on everything politically and we're going to disagree on everything religiously, but you're right and they're wrong. And I'm a gay man and everybody in town will know my name and know exactly who the hell I am. And you're right. And stood there with him and even testified in the court cases in favor of Jack, both here in the state and at the Supreme Court, as far as supporting Jack. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But then again, you have the people on the other side, on the LGBTQ, that just because of Jack's beliefs, his business shouldn't be open, which is just as pig-headed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow. So we're going to be talking to his lead attorney that gave oral arguments at the Colorado Supreme Court just a little bit later in the hour. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. If they want a pink and blue cake, all they have to do is go to the King Supers down the street from Jack. 57 and mostly cloudy in Denver on Juneteenth, expecting highs in the low 70s today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Anderson Aldridge, the man who opened fire in a Springs nightclub, admitted Tuesday the attack 2 years ago was a hate crime. Aldridge was given 55 life sentences in the federal case to run concurrent with the 5 life sentences from the state trial. Survivor Ashton Gamblin says she's not happy Aldridge avoided the death penalty.
I personally never wanted a plea deal. I think it's everybody's easy way out, and they don't want to spend money on a trial when we know it's a common sense thing. It's beyond aggravating.
Aldridge killed 5 people and injured 19 others. A man was found with stab wounds at a bathroom at the CSU Health Center on Tuesday, that is. He was not affiliated with the school, and police say it was an isolated incident. He was treated at a local hospital. Investigation is underway. Arvada police investigating a break-in that may be connected to an earlier case in Aurora. Police say the suspect, who was wearing a reflective vest, broke into a home near Independence Way and West 87th and ran out of the house when the homeowner woke up. The victim looked outside and saw several other people wearing reflective vests speed away in a car. Investigators are looking into links between this case and an armed home invasion burglary in Aurora, in which the suspects also wore reflective vests. An investigation is ongoing following a deadly stabbing at an Adams County apartment building on Monday. A man was found suffering from a stab wound in a hallway and later died of his injuries at a hospital. Investigators say several interviews have been conducted, and one person who was reportedly involved in the stabbing was identified and released. President Biden celebrating more amnesty and another special Biden moment.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas, as well as Secretary Becerra.
Wow, all kidding aside. Alejandro Mayorkas, responsible for allowing illegals like this guy to do his thing.
Police are giving credit to the public for identifying and helping to hold down the Ecuadorian migrant until officers could arrive Tuesday to arrest Christian Giovanni Ingolande. Charges against him include rape, sex abuse, and robbery after police say he allegedly displayed a knife, forcing a 13-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy into the woods at Casino Park. Cops say he admitted to the crime. According to the NYPD, he came from Venezuela and entered the country through Texas in 2021. Jacqueline Carl, NBC News Radio, New York.
He's doing court today. Charges have been reduced for the trucker accused of causing the deadly crash near Conifer last week. Ignacio Cruz Mendoza initially faced charges of vehicular homicide and assault, but those have been reduced to 1 count of careless driving resulting in death and 3 counts of careless driving resulting in injury. The Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, has passed away at the age of 93. Mays played 20 plus years, most of them with the San Francisco Giants, and was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979.
Ball game in the balance right here. Fly ball, right field, hit deep, debut! Teo, a hero! The Dodgers lead!
Dodgers come back to rock the Rockies last night at Coors, 11-9. Series continues tonight at Coors.
Connor McDavid with 17.3 to go sends this series back to Alberta. They will indeed drag the Cats back to Edmonton.
Oilers survive in Florida 5-3. Panthers lead at 3-2. 53 in Superior, 55 in Lakewood, and 57 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for the unseasonably cool temperatures to continue for another day, but temperatures start to go up tomorrow. Highs today will only be around 70 to low 70s. There will be a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing late this afternoon and evening, maybe a couple tonight, lows 50s. Not as cold. Mid to upper 80s Thursday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Friday, mid-80s, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Near 90 by Saturday, low to mid-90s by Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. In just a few minutes, we're going to be hosting Jack Phillips's lead attorney from Alliance Defending Freedom on the oral arguments that took place at the Colorado Supreme Court yesterday. What is going on? Didn't this go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court already? Now we got to deal with Jack Phillips back in court? Yes, you are, because Autumn Scardina, a transgender woman, sued baker Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Bake Shop for refusing to make a cake to celebrate her gender transition. So he'd already won at the Supreme Court. And in fact, the day he won, Autumn Scardina called to ask for this cake. Now, initially, Jack didn't have a problem with it because what was the cake about? Well, cake had a blue exterior and had a pink interior, and he's like, okay, I'll make that for you. But then when she mentioned that it was about celebrating her gender transition, Jack goes, I disagree with it. I do not believe that you can change genders, and I don't want to use my artistic talent to do that. So what do you think about this? Is Jack violating Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act? Well, the Denver Post believes so. Here's an opinion piece. Even if baking a cake is speech, it should outweigh civil rights. Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act should survive strict scrutiny because it's narrowly tailored to advance a compelling state interest. Here's what Tim Holbrook compares Jack Phillips to. He says, well, if you go into the Subway, they call those Subway sandwich makers sandwich artists. Isn't that all Jack's doing? Isn't he just like somebody else slapping cheese, meat, and condiments onto bread? Does not seem to be making them an artist or compelling speech. So why would we allow Jack Phillips to get away with that? And so he makes the argument that that the Colorado Supreme Court has in its best interest, in the state's best interest, to protect anti-discrimination.
Now, Jeff, I want to interrupt there just for a second.
Yep.
And I just want to outline and how dumb the argument is about the sandwich artist type of an argument.
Yeah,
slapping
please.
it in. And the reason being is because those people, and it was argued very eloquently in the case, those people behind the counter are told exactly the process and how to make the sandwich. If you come in and order the BLT, your BLT is supposed to look exactly like my BLT. And if, listener, you walk in there and you order a BLT, all three of our sandwiches are supposed to look exactly the same. Same ingredients, layered the same way, put together the same way. That's not what you do with cakes. Cakes are not the same thing. While the ingredients are the same, the end product varies remarkably and can vary from cake to cake. A wedding cake is not a one-size-fit-all, not a Big Mac. It's something much more interpretive, and that's where Jack ends up winning, which is, again, where he should win.
And Jack has said if it's a general brownie, if it's a cake,
Yes.
even without a
Yes.
message on it,
Yes.
here you go.
Yep.
No
Exactly.
problem at all. And
Not a problem.
look, he serves people that are even, and you've had this testimony, openly gay.
Yes.
Says, Jack, I am a gay man, but I would like a 4th of July cake.
And here's the
Here
thing.
you go.
Excuse me, I coughed there. Hairball, I think. Sorry. And here's the biggest weakness in Autumn Scardinia's case is that Jack would sell her a cake, whatever cake she wants, just not one for a gender transition. Now, if she wanted to buy a cake, just like you could a sheet cake or anything else that he has pre-prepared, like you could at a King Soopers, or you could at any other shop, and then take it home, you can write whatever the hell you want on it. It can be a gender transition cake. You can make it simply because you buy the frosting and write it on the top. I've done that with a birthday cake or two with the 4 kids in our house. We've done that. I got bad penmanship, but still. So that's the issue, is the idea that Autumn comes in and says that Jack won't do this for me. He prevents me from having this cake. No, he doesn't. Not in the least. He's just not going to take his artistic talent and custom create it this way for you. But if you want to have a gender transition cake, fine. Take it. Buy the frosting, go home and write on it. That's fine.
Now,
it's perfectly acceptable, and he will support you doing that.
These professors of law at University of Denver who wrote this article are saying that the U.S. Supreme Court has essentially created a distinction between expressive versus non-expressive conduct, which is basically what you just said.
And
right?
that makes sense.
And so what's the problem with it?
Yeah.
They say it's a real problem. It's going to result in discrimination.
No, not at all, because the idea being is there should be a line between expressive and non-expressive content.
Yeah.
There should be content out there that is simply non-expressive and somewhat generic. And then there should be some that is more expressive, and they should be held to different standards. Absolutely.
I agree.
And the issue being, let's say, and again, this is a really, really bad analogy. Okay. So I'm acknowledging this at first. This is a horrible analogy. Absolutely horrible. But it would be the difference between, let's say that you have a teacher in front of a middle school class talking about how the slave trade worked. And that would be, the basic form of information. But if that teacher takes it and gets it into more expressive and gives the kids an assignment about why were the slave owners right, and let's hold a slave auction, and let's get these kids into the role of what they are doing.
That's a bad analogy. I think that's a pretty good analogy.
I think it's an elegant, and so that becomes expressive because now, rather than imparting the information and the knowledge onto the kids and having them regurgitate it and talk about the context, you're asking them to express and put themselves into that situation. And that's the important the line of delineation for me, is when it is a form of expressive communication, expressive art, you're putting yourself into it. And it is yours. And so that person should not be forced to create or make an expression that is not true to them. You can't force it.
And I think the left is pushing this way out of bounds. They're getting all concerned, running around saying, well, if Jack Phillips is allowed to do that, well, then gay people can be turned away at hotels and they won't be able to stay there. And black people will be denied service at a lunch counter because of all this. No, none of that is happening because those are what you would call non-expressive services. But look, I brought this up the other day. When I first hosted the Western Conservative Summit in 2016, we had a photographer who did not want to participate in a Christian conservative event. He didn't believe in our values, and he didn't want to use his artistic talent running around for 3 days, taking pictures to the best of his ability for an event he didn't want to be a part of. And I, as an adult, said, thank you for telling me, because I don't want to employ somebody who's going to not share my values anyways.
Yes.
So appreciate it. Best of luck. By the way, do you know a photographer that might be interested in doing this?
Exactly.
Because I'd like to talk to him.
Now, here's the fun part about that. Okay. Now, listener, reflect on what Jeff just told you as far as the story. And I want to really, really outline the difference in the mindset. Remember what Autumn Scardina did and the approach to Jack Phillips when Jack said, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to do that particular thing that you're going to employ me for. She went, blah, 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 blah. Jeff approached it as a rational, reasonable adult and respected the other person's perspective, choices, and values, allowed them to honor it, and made a different choice. Did Jeff have a photographer at the event? Yes. Did the other photographer get to hold true to their values and continue to be a professional photographer without any stupid lawsuits? Yes. That's how adults handle it. Autumn, on the other hand, sorry, this is going to be a personal attack. I don't do this very often. Autumn, you're a child. Stop behaving like one. This is ridiculous. You know what you were doing. You know it was wrong, and you know you were doing it just to screw with Jack. I got a problem with that. I think you're acting like a child. Grow up. That's a personal comment on that, and I don't make personal attacks often.
It's true.
In this case, I'll make an exception for you. Hope you're listening.
Strong words.
Pisses me off.
Wow.
Pisses me off.
Text message from Jason in Denver. Just leave Jack alone. You should offer gay customers a 10% off any stock case.
Oh, I love that idea. Again, that would be probably hard for Jack to do religiously, but that's an idea.
Here's where I think Jack could do it, because Jack loves people, and he's kind of missional. He has a book there. He gives people books. So he likes to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with people.
Yeah.
So I almost could see him doing that, where he'd go, get them in there, talk to him about Jesus.
Not a bad idea, really. Not a bad idea.
Text message from Suzanne. Would Jack make a birthday cake for a man he knew was gay? Yep. And there's been lots of testimony to that. A regular cake, but Jack knows that the person is gay. Yep. There's been people that have gone in there and openly said to Jack, I am a gay man. Would you bake this cake for me? And he does it. So, it's been tried and tested in the past. What happened to putting up a sign saying we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone? I don't think you can do that anymore in the state of Colorado because of these laws against discrimination, these anti-discrimination acts. Look, they were originally designed to be shields against blatant discrimination. They are now swords where they go out there and they try to find people like 303 Creative or Jack Phillips and wield it against them to force them to do things that are against their religious values. To Bill's point, I think we can all come to a place here, right? There's not mass discrimination taking place against people. Look, every corporation out there has got the LGBTQ flag going on. You're saying there's mass discrimination taking place in this state against gay people? We have a gay governor. He's been elected twice by big margins. So do you need to go out there and try to penalize everybody that doesn't share your religious values because you believe there's some form of discrimination taking place? Give me a break. All right, in a second, we're going to be talking to the lead attorney in this case. He presented oral arguments yesterday in the Colorado Supreme Court. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. With just over a month to go until the start of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, Ralph Lauren has unveiled the official Team USA uniforms. The US designer says the signature red, white and blue outfits take inspiration from the host city, where, quote, fashion and sport will collide on the world stage with a global audience. President Vladimir Putin has received a warm welcome after arriving in North Korea, his first visit to the secretive country in more than 24 years. Chris Gilbert has the story.
Well, North Korea literally rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Kim Il-sung Square, where he and Kim Jong-un took in a welcome ceremony and a gala performance before getting down to business, a meeting between delegations from the two countries, followed by about 90 minutes of one-on-one talks between the two leaders focused on security issues. Vladimir Putin has vowed to create a trade relationship between the two countries, which, as he says, cannot be touched by the West, but the US maintains its assertion that the relationship is one of North Korea supplying munitions to Russia to prolong the war in Ukraine.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Yesterday, the Colorado Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the transgender case against Jack Phillips. Joining us on the line is Jake Warner. He's senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. Jake, I watch these oral arguments. It's sort of like a boxing match. And so you've just come out from this boxing match. You're an athlete. This is the post-game analysis. Jake, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show. Tell us, how did it go yesterday?
Well, we're excited. It was a good day in court yesterday. For context for your listeners, I'm sure they're aware of Jack Phillips and Masterpiece Cake Shop. But a few years ago, on the same day, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to hear Jack's first case. A local attorney called him up and requested a custom cake, blue on the outside, pink on the inside, to celebrate and symbolize a gender transition. Of course, Jack serves everyone at his cake shop. He just can't express every message, and that's one message that violates his faith. So he politely declined, offering this attorney other items that he would provide to any of his other customers. And then Jack was sued. Well, the case made its way up to the Colorado Supreme Court, where we had arguments yesterday, and we're hopeful. As the argument progressed, it certainly seemed like the judges understood kind of the free speech problem here, that the government's trying to compel Jack to express something he doesn't believe. And, listening to the other side, they were pretty comfortable with compelling all kinds of speech, compelling a Jewish artist to promote a Nazi event, and even saying, then on the other side of things, they said that Jack couldn't be compelled to create a cake promoting a gender transition if he had to figure out the design himself. But here, Jack was handed the design and asked to express a message that goes against his faith, and people would kind of know what that message means because of the symbolism. So it seemed like the other side didn't have clear lines on what is speech and what is not protected speech. So we're hopeful that the court's going to uphold free speech for everyone.
Now, we're 3 cases in with Jack Phillips. I thought he went to the U.S. Supreme Court and was victorious there. Why is he being drugged back into court?
He did win a big case at the U.S. Supreme Court back in 2018. That concerned a 2012 decision that Jack made. 2 men came into his cake shop. They requested a custom cake to celebrate a same-sex wedding. Again, Jack serves all people. That's a message he just can't express for anyone. Well, Jack was sued, and during that lawsuit, Colorado officials compared Jack to Nazis and slaveholders, comparing his religious freedom defense to those that were used to justify some of the worst things in our history. But not only that, during Jack's first case, a religious man went to 3 other cake artists requesting cakes with religious messages, and those secular artists said, no, we're not going to do that. We disagree with those messages. But instead of prosecuting those cake artists, the state of Colorado said, no, they have the freedom to decline to express messages they don't believe. Well, of course, they denied that same freedom to Jack. And when the case got up to the U.S. Supreme Court, the discrimination against Jack was so clear, and the hostility against Jack was so clear, that the Supreme Court didn't even need to reach the free speech question in that case. They held that because of the state's impermissible hostility against Jack and his faith, that case had to be thrown out. And then that led to Jack being prosecuted a third time on this cake, celebrating a transition from male to female.
But there's another case involved here, 303 Creative. And that's another Colorado case. How does that affect Jack Phillips?
303 affects Jack's case in a big way. That case was brought by a website designer, Lori Smith, in the Denver metro area. She saw what was happening to Jack and wondered if the government could prosecute her. But instead of waiting to be prosecuted like Jack, she decided to challenge this unjust law. And although we lost in the lower courts, the case eventually made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And Lori wanted the freedom to create custom websites celebrating God's design for marriage. But Colorado would force her to create custom websites promoting other views of marriage that she doesn't believe. And what the Supreme Court held is that free speech is for everyone. Colorado can't misuse its law to compel artists like Lori Smith, website designers, to create custom websites expressing messages they don't believe. And of course, that's the exact same issue that's in Jack's case. So yesterday, I was arguing before the Colorado Supreme Court, asking them to apply the 303 creative case and the principle there that free speech is for everyone, that this exact same law can't compel speech. They should apply that decision to protect Jack here.
Now, I'm not an attorney, but my sense is that with Jack, he lost at the Colorado Supreme Court before. On the same issue, they ruled against him. I don't know if they ruled against Lori Smith and 303 Creative, but it seems like Jack loses and loses and loses, and then it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they kick it back down here. Are you optimistic that the Colorado Supreme Court is going to rule differently this time?
Well, a couple of things there. So the first time around, the Colorado Supreme Court didn't even hear Jack's case. They declined to review it. So we had to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court directly from the Colorado Court of Appeals. So this is the first time that Jack has actually stood before the Colorado Supreme Court. And in fact, it's the first time this court has been asked to weigh in on the issues here, the important free speech issue here. So I'm optimistic. As the arguments went on yesterday, there were tough questions of both sides, no doubt, but it certainly seemed like some justices were understanding the compelled speech problem. And if you start trying to compel Jack, there's really no limit to the power that the government could have to force people to express messages they don't believe. And just as easily as the government could compel a Christian artist like Jack, when different people come into power, they could try to force LGBT artists and others who disagree with Jack on some of life's biggest issues to express messages they don't believe. So I'm hopeful that this court will get it right, especially after 303 Creative. But of course, if it comes out the wrong way, then we're prepared to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. In a lot of these cases, we have to lose a lot in the lower courts before we finally get the right decision and finally get justice at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Now, the Denver Post has an opinion piece in today from two professors at the University of Denver saying that the U.S. Supreme Court is wrong to have created a distinction between protected expressive conduct and non-expressive unprotected conduct, and that we need to step in and protect people from discrimination, that Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act is good and it serves our communities well. What's your response to the Denver Post this morning?
Those professors are super misguided. For years and years, non-discrimination laws have protected millions of transactions. That's still going to be true no matter how the Colorado Supreme Court decides this case. The weird thing here is that this law is being misused to compel speech. It's treating Jack's speech as a public accommodation. And the U.S. Supreme Court has long distinguished, look, these laws, they can cover millions of transactions every day applying to conduct, but what they can't do is be misused to force someone to express messages they don't believe. So I think these professors are just disregarding a big distinction that our courts have made for years and years.
Jake Warner, senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom, joining Jeff and Bill live. He argued in favor of Jack Phillips yesterday in the latest court case of them going after our man Jack. We were having a discussion earlier, Jake, and I want kind of your opinion on this, about the argument that at Subway, they call their people there sandwich artists. And so anytime that you're, creating this kind of a sandwich, etc., you're now a sandwich artist, and how that could hurt Jack's case, because if someone that works behind the counter at a McDonald's, a Subway, a Taco Bell can look at what they're doing as art, then it sort of muddies the water, and you can argue then Jack should have to serve everybody his art. My argument is that's not expressive. The people standing behind the counter at Subway are following a formula, and every sandwich has to look the same. That's not the expectation when you're coming to someone like Jack. And I think it's a different expectation. But how do you, since out of the three of us here, between you, Jeff, and myself, you're the law talking guy, as they say on The Simpsons. How do you argue that point that, well, Subway says they're sandwich artists? Are they?
No, that is not expression. Not everything that is creative is expressive. And, there's a huge distinction between putting together a turkey sandwich and creating a custom cake. Turkey sandwiches are not typically used to communicate messages, culturally speaking, or in context. Maybe if they were asked to arrange the sandwiches to create words expressing a message, that's one thing. But typically, people who make sandwiches, they're not communicating. Just like plumbers, hairdressers, retailers, all kinds of people. They generally don't express messages, but they can in certain contexts. Here, Jack Phillips is a cake artist, and people often come to him to request expressive cakes. That's part of our culture here in America. That's why we have things called wedding cakes and gender reveal cakes. Like most custom cakes express some kind of celebratory message, and that's exactly what the trial court found in Jack's case. The trial court found that this custom cake request is really patterned after a gender reveal cake. The symbolism is super apparent. Blue means male, pink means female. And this cake, in context, conveyed a celebration and even symbolized a transition from male to female. And the backdrop of gender reveal cakes only punctuates this. So a lot of it comes down to, how is the medium typically used? Turkey sandwiches don't express messages typically. Custom cakes do.
Jake Warner, Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom, joining Jeff and Bill. Thank you for the answer. I want to share a little bit of a story with you right now, and then kind of ask your opinion of it. And this is the issue, okay? So we kind of jump ahead. There are some text messages and people saying, hey, what about the idea of, putting up the sign, we reserve the right to refuse to serve anybody. We know there are some protected classes, but some of these non-discrimination laws were done when there weren't any other alternatives. If you are the only barber in town, saying that I don't cut black people's hair or Muslim people's hair, etc., puts an undue burden on that community. When there are other possible alternatives, that burden is somewhat lifted. Legally, not 100%, but it does lighten the load. I want to share the story with you of Deborah, who called in, and she said that when she heard about Jack's trials and tribulations and what was happening to him, she went to go and support him. She wanted to just hand him some cash so that he could help pay for all of his legal fees. She couldn't find the shop. She had a hard time. She's driving around. She ends up at a bakery and walks in that she doesn't know at the time is almost right across the street from Jack. That bakery is owned by a gay couple. She meets the couple and they talk to her about Jack, and they say, hey, we know Jack. He is a great guy. His shop is right over there. He's like a block and a half down on the other side of the street. Go and see him. And when you do, tell him that we said hello and we hope he's having a great day. And they share the story with Deborah that, guess what? There are cakes that Jack won't bake that we will. That any of those customers that can't get a cake that they want at Jack's shop, we will bake them for them. However, there also are some cakes that we choose not to do based on some religious expressions. And guess who we send them to? We send them to Jack, a block and a half down the road. So talk to me about the idea that Autumn Scardenia, who filed this suit, said there's no possible way that she could ever have another gender transition cake made if she didn't have it made by the blood, sweat, and tears of Jack Phillips. Talk to us about why that is such a pile of crap.
Well, in Jack's first case, there was briefs filed, and some of those briefs noted that there was something to the effect of 80 cake shops within the near vicinity of Jack's shop. So when you're talking about access to custom cakes and different things, you're going to get the cake that you want. The question is, are we going to protect artists, not just those like Jack Phillips with Christian beliefs, but also the LGBT artist. Like you said, there's some cakes that those LGBT artists can't create because of their religious message, so they send them to Jack. And under the other side's theory, that they should be compelled to create those cakes with messages they disagree with. But under our theory, both Jack and the LGBT artist should be protected. They should be free to say what they want to say without fear of government punishment.
Now, I just want to wrap on procedure here. We just got a few minutes left with Jake Warner. He is senior counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom. He made the oral arguments yesterday in the Colorado Supreme Court. So help me understand, this is not a lawsuit or a challenge to the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. If I understand correctly, the Colorado Civil Rights Commission declined to prosecute Jack on this, but allowed Autumn Scardina to be able to continue her personal lawsuit. Is that right? Is that the details here?
Well, we quibble with that a little bit. You know, the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, they actually came after Jack on this same cake request. But during the lawsuit, we uncovered evidence of the commission's ongoing hostility against Jack and his faith. Current commissioners at the time compared Jack to Nazis and slaveholders and thought that was the right idea. And when that evidence came to light, the commission quickly came to a settlement and dismissed the agency litigation. And you highlight a procedural problem in this case. The plaintiff was the attorney that was suing Jack was a party to that administrative case and could have appealed, but refused to do so, and instead tried to sue Jack and doubly punish him in state court, and that is not the right thing to do under the law.
Wow.
And so this case shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you guys demonstrated that the Civil Rights Commission, where a lot of this stuff is supposed to, by law, be adjudicated, was openly hostile and personally hostile to Jack, so he wasn't going to get a free trial or a fair trial. So they back off, go, you know what, we'll settle it. And now she is, I guess, it sounds like double jeopardy. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like it's just continued harassment of Jack Phillips. Well, Jake Warner, I want to encourage people to go to adflegal.org. Look, there's two ways to support Jack. Obviously, you can support his business. He always appreciates that. It's a wonderful little bakery in Lakewood, Colorado. His family's a part of all this. It's just a wonderful, delightful bakery to be a part of. You can go and visit his business and purchase items. He's happy to do that. And that's one way to support Jack and his business. The other is to support Alliance Defending Freedom. This is the cadre of the most elite attorneys in America, an 80% win rate, 15 Supreme Court victories, 30 plus years of defending Americans' rights, a network of over 4,500 attorneys. All you have to do is go to adflegal.org. When you pull it up, you'll see a feature right there. Stand with Jack today, and you can donate to Jack Phillips. They're looking to raise well over $1 million. They've got a match going on right now, a challenge grant. This supports not only Jack Phillips, but a cadre of other cases coming up to defend our constitutional rights. Jake Warner, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show today.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Again, adflegal.org if you want to support Jack Phillips and the attorneys doing great work there. All right, we'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to
710 KNUS.
All right, let's go to the phone. Francis, you're up. What's on your mind?
Hey, guys. Hey, one thing that I wanted to kind of point out here is that when we're talking about artists or some sort of creative ability, this isn't like a kid who's just throwing finger paints on paper.
Yep.
This guy who anybody can do, like the Subway sandwich example of Billy. They call themselves artists, but they're not.
That's it.
And
Francis, you're exactly right. I'm just out of time. Wanted to squeeze you in real quick here. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Peter Boyles is up next.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Nine a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's Wednesday, June 19th. Going to be a little bit cooler today. Only a high 72 degrees. We're going to get more details on that in just a second. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. If you're listening to us on the radio, you can also watch us on YouTube, X, and Rumble by just typing in 710 KNUS into those platforms and turn it into a viewing experience as well. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time pretty crazy. It's another beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in just a second, Peter Boyles is going to join us. He's got a great opinion piece in the Denver Post over the weekend. Yesterday would have been the 40-year anniversary of Alan Berg's assassination that took place. If you don't know who Alan Berg was, he was a big-time radio voice here in Denver, assassinated because of his Jewish background, belief, faith, as well as his challenge to anti-Semitism. And Peter Boyles is going to give us insight to that. Got a text message from my mom this morning. She used to work in radio at that point too. She was working at KWBZ when Alan Berg was on air, and David Lane walked in and stood in the window towards Alan. David held up his arm and used his hand as a make-believe pistol. Alan flew out of the studio and threw David out of the studio at that point. So personal to my family as well. We'll cover this and more right after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Wow, I can't wait to hear that. That is amazing, Jeff. 58 and mostly cloudy in Denver on Juneteenth. Expecting highs in the low 70s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the Alphabet Mafia continues to attack the great baker Jack Phillips. This time it's the case of a gender transition cake, and the Colorado Supreme Court is taking it under advisement and not ruling right now. Jake Warner, Alliance Defending Freedom, represents Jack, and on with Jeff and Bill last hour.
Well, we're excited. It was a good day in court yesterday, and we're hopeful. As the argument progressed, it certainly seemed like the judges understood kind of, the free speech problem here, that the government's trying to compel Jack to express something he doesn't believe. And, listening to the other side, they were pretty comfortable with compelling all kinds of speech.
Stay tuned. You can go to adflegal.org to support Jack. adflegal.org. Vince Everett Ellison, one of my favorites, reminded me last night that Obamacare set the foundation for all this crazy transition stuff.
If you need a sex change operation also, they'll do the same thing. They'll pay for the operation, and they'll pay for your hormone pills in perpetuity. So guess where the incentive is now in the pharmaceutical industry? To make as many of these people as they possibly can so they can get paid. You didn't see that coming, did you? Do you think that these cats in the pharmaceutical industry are going to cheat themselves out of money? You think they want less money or no money?
And we're paying for all of this years later. So now go out and buy some cookies from Jack today. A man was found with stab wounds at a bathroom at the CSU Health Center on Tuesday. He's not affiliated with the school, and police say it was an isolated incident. He was treated at a local hospital. Investigation is underway. Anderson Aldrich, the man who opened fire in a Springs gay nightclub, admitted Tuesday that the attack 2 years ago was a hate crime. Aldrich was given 55 life sentences in the federal case to run concurrent with the 5 life sentences from the state trial. Survivor Ashton Gamblin says that she's not happy Aldrich avoided the death penalty.
I personally never wanted a plea deal. I think it's everybody's easy way out, and they don't want to spend money on a trial when we know it's a common sense thing. It's beyond aggravating.
Aldrich killed 5 people and injured 19 others. Arvada police investigating a break-in that may be connected to a case in Aurora. Police say the suspect was wearing a reflective vest, broke into a home and ran out of the house when the homeowner woke up. The victim looked outside and saw several other people wearing reflective vests, and they sped away in a car. Investigators looking into the links between this case and an armed home invasion burglary in Aurora, where the suspects also wore reflective vests. President Biden celebrating more amnesty and another special Biden moment. just for you. I have to let it lock up here.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas, as well as Secretary Becerra.
Okay, there's so much there. Wow. I love obviously he froze again when he was about to say Alejandro. And then I love the woo for Alejandro Mayorkas. Wow, he's doing a great job. Yes, responsible for. He's passed away at the age of 93. Mays played 20 plus years, most of them with the Giants, and was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. Okay, I hate soccer, but this Portugal match.
Ojo porque Neto, ojo, saca el servicio, la pelota sigue viva, puede ser gol.
Billy, what heck was what happened here?
Oh, this is amazing. Blake and I were talking about this off air. It was Portugal in the Euros yesterday, and they were tied 1-1. It got into the 85th minute. And Diego Jota, who came on, scored a goal, but it was ruled offsides. So Portugal celebrated, thought they had the win. They didn't. It's now 1-1. They get into extra time. A young kid starting for the national team for the first time comes on. Well, he's been on a couple of times, but first big tournament. He steps onto the field. 111 seconds later, he scores the winning goal for Portugal in injury time. But that's not the best part about it.
What happened?
He is the son of a famous Portugal national team player who on that day yesterday, 20 years ago, scored a hat trick for Portugal to advance in the Euros. And on 20 years later, his son is on the field and his son scores the winning goal.
That's pretty cool.
It's the only time I've ever seen a parent do a bigger goal celebration than the actual player. Dad went nuts, and it was beautiful to see. It's magic.
Here you go. Here it is again. Wow.
And I was going crazy at that point. I was going crazy. I'm not a Portugal fan, but I the crazy.
So what are the Euros? What that's like World Cup? Or
yeah, Euros are mini World Cup. We've got a North and South America one going on right now, but nobody cares because it's Argentina, Brazil. The interesting one right now is the Euros. Yeah,
come on, Argentina! Everybody cares about Argentina.
But the issue is, we're in there, Mexico's in there, Brazil and Argentina are the only two that matter. Those are the only two anybody cares about. So that's it.
You know what was amazing? It was actually Portugal's Father's Day yesterday. Did you
was
know
it?
that?
No, I didn't know that. That's even better.
It wasn't.
Than...
I'm just playing.
I'd have thought so. That would have been even better. That would have been amazing.
That would have been good. We could have played that off though.
Oh, that'd have been cool.
All right, I had to let you hear that.
Thank you, my friend. Oh, it made me happy.
55 in Highlands Ranch, 56 in Glendale, 58 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue, and Peter's up next. That's going to be great stuff. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for the unseasonably cool temperatures to continue for another day, but temperatures start to go up tomorrow. Highs today will only be around 70 to low 70s. There will be a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing late this afternoon and evening, maybe a couple tonight, lows 50s. Not as cold. Mid to upper 80s Thursday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Friday, mid 80s, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Near 90 by Saturday, low to mid 90s by Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
"40 years ago yesterday, Alan Berg was assassinated by white supremacists for being an outspoken Jewish radio host in Denver." Now, I'd always heard Alan Berg's name. My parents all worked in radio, and I was 2 years old when this happened. So if you're like me, you may not know the details about Alan Berg. Found some great audio of the kind of show he hosted. Here's Alan Berg years and years and years ago. The audio is a little hard, but you get a sense of who he is.
Alan Berg on KOA 3:17 in the afternoon, leaving us about 10 minutes in the show. Let's go to line one. You're on the air.
Hey, Alan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Kevin. I'm calling from Colorado Springs.
Go ahead.
And we've been listening to you all day. We think you're just a big bag of wind down here.
Well, why is that?
Oh, I don't know. You're just one of those type people.
Well, sir, what is it? Would you care to challenge a point of mine and make a presentation on it? Or do you just want to say I'm a bag of wind?
Well,
I mean, I'll be glad to listen to what your argument is.
okay, I'd like to ask you one question.
Sure.
And I'd like
Try
know
to keep it
what
within the realm of decency, but go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to know what FOB means on a freight bill.
So, freight on board, sir.
Freight on board.
Yes. Is that what you want to argue with me about because I'm a bag of wind? You know what that means, sir?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Do you have any idea what you see? Let's see. The expression to me is so obvious. Let's see if you can figure it out since you apparently think I'm a bag of wind. Let's see how well you reason. What would freight on board sound like to you?
Oh, sounds like it's the freight that's on the truck. Or to be loaded on the truck.
It involves the cost of the shipment. It involves the way in which the particular item is priced. But anyway, sir, I thought there must be something, though, you want to argue with me, isn't there?
Oh, I guess
I mean, if you called and you're wasting all this money long, you at least ought to get one in. Besides, I'm a bag of wind. Okay, I sometimes think you're right. But what is the point you disagree with? That would make a much more interesting call than what is freight on board.
Well, I don't know. There's just times,
Well, give me an example, sir. You're going nowhere.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess you got nowhere to go. Boy, I'll tell you, that one killed me. Line 2, you're on KOA.
I guess I agree with the man that was on the phone just previously.
Good, well, maybe you got something you care to present instead of just encircling it.
Well, I probably do.
Let's try it, okay?
A little bit ago, there was a gentleman who appeared to be on the telephone. Appeared from the telephone to be an elderly gentleman. His name was Edward. You talked to him for a little
the man I called an idiot, yes.
And you called him
he certainly was an idiot. Go ahead.
Well, do you know what the meaning of idiot is?
I know the pure reasoning. It's used. As I used it, obviously, it is not used in that
rather
category.
than not use the word idiot than some of the four-letter words that are in the book, because idiot denotes someone that has no brain at all. And I feel that...
Well, sometimes the way the people act
human
between
being-
wrestling
we're not-
fans and him, I'm not sure anybody does have a brain.
Well, maybe that's right. And the other thing I wanted to say is it's the first time that I've ever listened to this show. I only have...
Are you in for fun?
My
And you know what's
4-year-old,
funny?
2-year-old...
Sweetheart, catch this one. You'll never miss it. Okay, line 2, line 3, you're on KOA.
That was Alan Berg. Billy G here, he said wrestling fans, between wrestling fans and the caller, there are a bunch of idiots.
Oh, absolutely. And I own that. I absolutely own that. And as a friend, as our friend Pete Boyles, who I'll bring up right now, joining us, knows, he always tells the story of one of his great friends in the wrestling business, Bobby the Brain Heenan, looking at him as they're in the car late one night after a match that they had called and worked. And Brain looks at my friend Pete and says, "You know what the scariest thing is about wrestling fans?" He goes, "Well, I don't know." And Brain goes, "They vote." Yes.
That's good.
Yes, we know our own.
So 40 years ago yesterday, Alan Berg walking to his car, assassinated by white supremacists. And Peter Boyles, friend of Alan Berg, colleague of Alan Berg, wrote about a great opinion piece. Alan Berg's murderers may be dead, but their anti-Semitism thrives today, published in the Denver Post over the weekend. Pete, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with both of you, and thank you very much for that. Was last night, actually, 40 years ago last night, 9:30 last night.
That's tough.
Yeah.
What now? But personally for you, 40 years ago last night, what's that like emotionally? They say time heals all wounds. Does it?
Yeah, no, yes, maybe. The picture that appeared on the Perspective, and I had a really great phone conversation with Rabbi Foster's wife, Joyce, and because of this picture that's on the front of the Denver Post, it kind of took me back. I went out to buy the papers on Sunday, and it's a picture of me at the podium at Temple Emmanuel, and everything just comes right back to you. I think all you guys have been through so much as well, and 40 years was yesterday afternoon, and sometimes it's 40 years. But on Sunday, and it was really, there's a woman up at the Post that has allowed me to do this, and it just was. I didn't expect that picture, and my kids and I, we've talked about it, and they were. It's really interesting. Morgan, my son, was playing t-ball when this happened. Now my grandson is playing Little League. Wow. It's just like, wow, it's just, yeah. It just folds, time folds. But it was 40 years ago last night.
Pete, we got the KOA call on the death of Alan Berg. I want to get your reaction.
Sure.
It's not playing there, Billy.
Is it Kenny Hamlin?
I don't know why it isn't. It's there.
10:39 KOA time, and I'm still trying to piece information together. Off the air, I'm finding out that Channel 7 has issued a report that said the best investigative efforts of the DPD has indicated that someone passing in a vehicle using a semi-automatic weapon or an automatic weapon, I'm not sure which, fired upon Alan Berg when he was exiting his vehicle in front of his home. 10 or more shell casings, to the best of my ability, or a number that would indicate an automatic weapon was found at the scene. And Alan Berg has, in fact, passed on. He is no longer with us. He'll always be with us, though. I think he's touched each and every one of us. He touched me, and and Lee Larson and Jim Hawthorne are on their way into the station now. And Jim is program director. Lee Larson is the station manager. And it's a shock.
What's your reaction, Pete? You hear that 40 years later?
It was Ken Hamlin. And, you hear those tapes, and as you probably know, there's a film coming. Kevin Flynn's book and Gary Gerhardt's book is being produced in a movie, and then another guy's making a film as well. And, we talk to these guys, talk a lot to them. And I know Kenny's talked to them. Sue, there's just so many people that Lee Larson, he mentioned Lee Larson, the late Jim Hawthorne. It was a different time for talk radio. Of course, your dad and I, and Woody Vincent, we were all, part of that early group of people that really kind of changed the face of radio. But Alan really changed the face of radio. What he was doing was so entirely different than anything that had been done before. And that's important to remember. I had lunch with Lee last Friday, and we went over an awful lot of this. And it was a really deep conversation about the nature of talk radio and the role that Berg played in it. And most people today, I would suspect, being 40 years ago, and how old were you, Jim, when this happened? You were a little guy.
Yeah, Jeff was 2.
I was 2 years old.
Yeah, and I'm just outside my teenage years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember it with my parents, because I remember listening to Alan, because my parents were huge, especially my father, huge talk radio fans back then. It was either classical music or talk radio. That was the constant soundtrack. And I mean, almost 24 hours a day in our house. So I knew his voice, but I wasn't connected to the show. But I did see the sadness in my parents' faces on that morning.
And no one knew. I try to make that clear in that article that the Post allowed me to write, is that we now know, and I now know, the role that everyone played in leading up to that assassination. That's really what it was. But we had no idea, and I always come up with that. It was Socrates or Aristotle who said, little boys kill frogs in sport, but frogs die in earnest. And Alan wasn't who these people thought that he was, or even manufactured him into being something that was the furthest thing from the truth of who Alan was. They believed he was, and you can hear this again. All these echoes again in our culture, in talk radio, and particularly in the internet and some newspapers, some people that go around public speaking, that they make people into something that they're not. And they made Berg into, it's interesting, Joseph Goebbels had the German name of a Gauleiter. And the Gauleiter, he ran the newspapers in Berlin, the chief of propaganda. So they actually believed that Alan was the Gauleiter, although they had another word for the ZOG, the Zionist occupation government or occupying government, and that he was the voice of what was to come, and then tied into the Turner Diaries and Earl Turner, and it's it's complex at the same time. It made all the sense in the world to them. They had the protocols, they had the Turner Diaries, they had all the Holocaust deniers, they had all of these characters. Well, to a large degree, fellas, they're all sitting out there again.
Yeah, and that's how much the circle has closed. And I want to go back a little bit to talk to us and the listener about how different and unique Berg was on the air and what the radio landscape was at that time and why he was doing something so different, so unique, and something that even today nobody else really can replicate.
Now, when he wasn't, I say there's a handful of people that I've been around that sat down and got it. Mike Rosen sat down and got it. Dave Logan sat down and got it. And Alan sat down and got it. There was guys like me and guys like you guys. And, I was a traffic reporter and a writer for the traffic reports. And I did the weather and read the news and, all that nonsense that you did on being an AM music disc jockey. And Jeff's dad did it. We all did it. Well, Alan was working. He had lost his law license in Chicago because he was the first in recovery person I knew. And he came back out here because he had gone to school here, and he opened up a place called the Boot Broker. And there was a fellow, by the name of Lawrence Gross. And Lawrence was a talk show host on I call it the mother of all radio stations where everybody learned their skills. But it was called KGMC then, and later becomes KGMC, becomes KMGH. And so Lawrence goes and he's buying clothes, buying shirts and buying shoes from Alan. And he looks at Alan. Alan's like the diamond in the rough. So he starts bringing Berg on as a guest. And so Lawrence gets a job offer in San Diego, and he turns to Corky Cartwright. He says, let this guy have the show. This is the guy that should have the show. And so Corky took a chance on Alan. Remember, he's not trained in any of this. He's a trial attorney, disbarred trial attorney. So I remember when Elvis Presley died, and I was working with Bob. We were doing mornings, and grown men were crying. I mean, it was an amazing morning. Berg goes on the air and says, "Elvis couldn't sing a note." He said, and he starts going after Elvis's ability to be he was visceral. We've all worked together, and you see me going there, Billy, with books and piles of notes and stuff. He would come in with something that he found in the Inquirer, or something that he had come across, and he was arrested for jaywalking once, which I always accused him of doing that on purpose. And he would do all kinds of stuff, but it wasn't where it was any depth. He had a visceral approach. Pro wrestling, and he used to goof me on pro wrestling because back then I was working the ring, and so the wrestlers would come in, and he had a love-hate thing because he understood that that's what he was too.
Yeah.
At his eulogy, I said he was the greatest professional wrestler I ever heard on radio, because you didn't know what he was going to do, and I never knew where the line was. I mean, you and I can share this.
Yeah.
But guys that said they never knew where the line was with Bruiser Brody. They never knew when the real Brody was, and no one, even as close as we were, I never knew the moments where he was doing it to do it, or doing it because he meant it. But when he came up against Rick Elliott and Francis Farrell and Jack Moore and all of those men, it was real. Yeah, that was something that tore him apart. Was any kind of bigotry just really took him apart.
Talking with Peter Boyles, he's got a new article out in the Denver Post over the weekend. Alan Berg's murderers may be dead, but their anti-Semitism thrives today. 40 years ago, last night, Alan Berg was assassinated. You write this. I was intrigued by this, Pete. Alan was Colorado's first victim of a legitimate hate crime, yet the city has not recognized him with a street name, a sign, or a plaque. to mark the murder of this remarkable man. Only last year, Alan was admitted to the Denver Press Club Hall of Fame. Why is that?
Well, first of all, it took a long, I can't explain the city of Denver. I've attempted, and so has Kevin Flynn. And this is taking nothing. We have a bus stop for Omar Jah, who was murdered. We have Dick Connor Boulevard, and that comes with great esteem. We have Daddy Bruce Randolph. We have Pena Boulevard. We have McNichols. We have all of these things. And I don't know if it's because who he was and what he said, but if there is such a thing as hate crimes, and that's always debated, but that certainly was one. And we have tried again and again and again with administration after administration to mark Adams Street or to, because he was murdered on Adams Street. But, you know, old KOA, I mean, all the different places that could say something about him. I'm not asking to say change the name of Adams Street, you know, although they did that for other people. I can't tell you why. I mean, I don't know if it was any number of different things, but I remember the last time I was really angry about it was when they had Pena Boulevard. And I'm thinking, you know, in tradition, you're not supposed to name something after somebody until they passed away, but it is what it is. And we had quite a struggle, and the new guys who were running the press club were wonderful. And by the way, I had a conversation with somebody that you guys may remember, Ted Scott. Alan Berg is not in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame for the state of Colorado, for the Colorado Hall of Fame. He's
That's
not
ridiculous.
in the Broadcasting. Oh, it is. And I don't know why they've kept him out. Before COVID hit, I went because Charlie Martin was being inducted. And I had a conversation at the table, and I said, Berg's not in it. I mean, before you start getting some obscure producer that worked at Channel 9 in the 50s, how about Alan? And again, COVID hit and deaf ears. So we'll see. I mean, I think he belongs in a national press club in D.C. He was murdered because of what we do for a living, what you two do and what I try to do. And that's why he was killed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
So
Talking
hard.
with Peter Boyles about Alan Berg, former host with KOA, murdered 40 years ago last night. You know, local radio is so important, and it is only brought to us by great people like Joyce and Brent Tolliver at Roll 'em Out Shelves, who are able to believe in what we're doing here and help finance this. I want to tell you about Roll 'em Out Shelves, and then we'll continue with Pete in just a second. Look, it's a small business, Roll 'em Out Shelves. This is not a big corporation. This is a mom and a son that have built a small business in Colorado that employs a lot of people, that's doing great work for the people of Colorado. When you have Joyce and Brent over, it's kind of like having your mom or son over. You're going to have a great conversation about faith, about family, about love of country and America's founding principles. Then we got to work. We measured all the details in our small kitchen. We don't have a big kitchen. We live in a small little ranch house, but we got with 6 people, but we were able to measure out all these details and then build these beautiful, beautiful custom Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado. They installed them and we use them every single day. It's made our life so much easier. No longer in our kitchen are we having to reach all the way into the back of those cupboards to find what we need. We just easily pull them out. We also had them put into our laundry room. They are great. Listen to some of these 5-star reviews. The shelves are very sturdy and made better than most I've ever seen. Very, very happy customer. This is a top-notch company. Excellent products, excellent service and installation. We had shelves installed on the laundry room and kitchen. Makes a world of difference in accessing items. I highly recommend them. Billy's having them installed at his mom's house. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you, rollemoutshelves.com. We'll continue with Peter Boyles on the 40th anniversary of Alan Berg's assassination. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. President Biden has announced a path to citizenship for around 500,000 people living in the US illegally who are married to US citizens. Nick Harper has the story.
The Biden administration says this new plan will keep families together and help the US economy. Donald Trump, though, has warned it will lead to a greater surge in migrant crime and will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. The application process for the new program is scheduled to open by the end of the summer, providing hundreds of thousands protection from deportation, something Donald Trump has threatened to do if he's re-elected in November.
Hurricane season has officially arrived, and with it, the first tropical storm warning of the year has been issued. The National Weather Service has issued alerts to coastal communities in southern Texas, predicting heavy rain, flooding, and possibly tornadoes. Forecasters say a system currently forming in the Gulf of Mexico could strengthen to cyclone level, and if it does, it will officially be named Tropical Storm Alberto, the first severe weather system of the season. Affected communities lie between Port O'Connor and the mouth of the Rio Grande and are advised to monitor the latest alerts from the National Weather Service. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel. At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. President Biden has announced a path to citizenship for around 500,000 people living in the US illegally who are married to US citizens. Nick Harper has the story.
The Biden administration says this new plan will keep families together and help the US economy. Donald Trump, though, has warned it will lead to a greater surge in migrant crime and will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. The application process for the new program is scheduled to open by the end of the summer, providing hundreds of thousands protection from deportation, something Donald Trump has threatened to do if he's re-elected in November.
Hurricane season has officially arrived, and with it, the first tropical storm warning of the year has been issued. The National Weather Service has issued alerts to coastal communities in southern Texas, predicting heavy rain, flooding, and possibly tornadoes. Forecasters say a system currently forming in the Gulf of Mexico could strengthen to cyclone level, and if it does, it will officially be named Tropical Storm Alberto, the first severe weather system of the season. Affected communities lie between Port O'Connor and the mouth of the Rio Grande and are advised to monitor the latest alerts from the National Weather Service. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. 40 years ago, last night, Alan Berg was assassinated for essentially just being an outspoken Jewish radio host. He was murdered by white supremacists. And Peter Boyles has got a great opinion piece in the Denver Post over the weekend. Go there and check it out. Billy, we were discussing what led up to this.
Yeah, and that's where we want to bring Pete in. Or just before the break, we talked about some of the background to Alan Berg and how he's not been recognized by the Colorado Broadcast Hall of Fame and a bunch of other things. That he's not, there's no memorial, there's no street named after him, a couple of things, despite what he meant for the city and what he meant for radio at that time as well. Peter Boyles, can you walk us through what was happening behind the scenes and how did those evil people get to a point where they decided Alan had to die?
Yeah, it's the sense of the centerpiece of most of the article. The general belief is that he talked on the radio, and so these people didn't like it, so they killed him. And that wasn't the truth. The truth was that KOA, as we all know, is the king of agriculture, the designated call letters. And so part of that, when I was working there, Evan Slack and the Farm and Ranch reports and everything that was done, well, KOA received all these little small town agricultural newspapers. And we had a little office, Alan and I, and our producer was a fellow named Larry Crandall. And I loved reading the papers. And I came across one called the Primrose and Cattleman's Gazette, published by a guy named Rick Elliott. Roderick, you call him Rick Elliott. And they had actually produced and republished what's known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and by a guy by the name of Francis Farrell. And so I couldn't believe that that was there. And as a little history geek, the protocols were the Tsar Nicholas I, Nicholas II is the one who dies, but Nicholas's father has a secret police force called the Okhrana. Well, the Okhrana, it's a forgery. I mean, the whole thing's a fraud. And if you read European history, so anyhow, so I read this and I go to Larry and I said, Larry, can you get this guy on the show? And we had a noon to 1 show, and Alan would come in about 10:15, and we'd pass. Chris Ollinger read the news, and Evan Slack did Farm and Ranch, and Ken Kershaw did sports. So the guy agrees, and I get him on the show, and it goes sideways pretty quick. And I'm saying, can you read? And did you know these were forgeries? And, did you pay for these things? And I'm intellectually having a cat and mouse game with the guy. Berg comes in for the pass, and he'd been listening, gives me the tap, and he said, see if the guy wants to stay. So I said, would you like to stay talk to my colleague? Well, everything goes. And Rick Elliott said yes, and Berg just Berged him. And what we didn't know, that's the first round, and what we didn't know was in the other room was his part-time printer, part-time bodyguard, a guy by the name of David Lane, who drove the getaway car that night when they murdered him. So anyhow, I further read more Cattleman's Gazettes, and I realized that, almost every page had a military recruit ad for Air Force, Marines, the Army. And I said, this isn't going to work. So I called Congresswoman Schroeder, and Pat Schroeder was the congressional head of armed services. And she and I we were friends. And I told her, she said, what? And I said what was going on. And so she yanked the ads. And so Rick Elliott sued Alan, KOA Radio, I think General Electric, and me. And the judge threw it out. And we, now he's getting ready to go. So they brought a shrink show in, Andrew Van Steenhouse on KOA. And Alan got moved to nights. Well, at nights, KOA you can get it, as we said, in your teeth. You can get it in Canada. So,
yeah. And the reason why, I just want to explain to the listener, the reason why is KOA has 3 call letters. It's one of a very few what are called clear channel stations across the country.
Heritages.
Yep, heritage stations. And that's not Clear Channel, the company that is now iHeart. Clear Channel, the reason it was set up is the U.S. government wanted certain sticks across the country. So if we had to get an emergency broadcast from one coast to the other, they had to have something functionally to do it. And the way they did that was establish a series of very, very large signal AM broadcast stations across the country. So everything at night had to power down and move out of their way so they could cover the entire country if we needed to. Anybody that has worked KOA at night knows that it covers 39 states plus Canada and Mexico. It's a huge stick, but that's why it has 3 call letters, and that's why it has such a big voice. I'm sorry, continue.
Oh, that's okay. And it was FDR needed it for fireside chats, and they needed it for wartime. And it was very functional. And so Alan's on at night, and Now he has a go with Pete Peters, who had the Identity Church in Fort Lupton, Jack Moore, the return of Rick Elliott. Anyhow, so he burgs them all. It was knock down, drag out. And so the founder of the order was a guy named Robert Matthews. And Matthews is up in Richard Butler's Hayden Lake, Idaho compound. He had literally built a fort. And they're in the back and they're listening. And I personally believe that was the night that they said, okay. And they had turned him into this Gauleiter kind of a character. And that was the night they said they were going to kill him. I believe that was the planning. That was the 18th of January of 84. And then there was a woman named Jean Craig, and she was the lookout. And she stood across, and that's when KOA was still on Lincoln Street. And she stood across, and actually Pat Connor identified her in the trial. And she followed him home, found out where he lived on Adams. And so they plotted that night, and they had an argument in the car apparently about who was going to kill him. And they had an Ingram Mac 10, was a semi-automatic. They converted it, and Bruce Carroll Pierce won the argument. And there's some conversation about Pierce was going to break away and make a worse group, but they sat in the car, and Alan had. His ex-wife was in town, had taken her out to dinner, brought back, went and got dog food, and stepped out of the car, and Bruce Carroll Pierce was behind a tree and shot him 13 times. And the saving grace for me is he never felt it. He was dead before he hit the ground. And then it was on. They ripped across the country, and the Denver police, no one had any idea what was going on. And it was, and that's when Rabbi Foster, to his credit, we had the service at Temple Emmanuel, and then they started popping these guys off. So they're figuring the FBI, and then to the FBI's credit, they know finally who it is. They're closing in on them. They're closing in on Gary Lee Yarborough, and he actually had the gun and had built an altar with Adolf Hitler's picture and the gun on the altar. I mean, this is insanity of these people. And so Bob Matthews and Gary Lee are trying to get away. They jump out of a motel window. Gary Lee breaks his ankle. He can't run. Matthews can. Goes out on a place called Whibley Island off the coast of Washington State. And he's in a firefight, 36 or 38-hour firefight. At night, the FBI is firing illumination flares and they come down, burn the house down. Bob Matthews dies in the house. And he's the link. And the rest of them are captured at different places and all brought back. And then the big Seattle trial was the first trial, and that was a RICO trial. And Alan's murder was, I forget what number it was on the RICO. Then it came down to, okay, how about a murder beef here? And Norm Early was the DA, and he chose not to go murder one on them. But Richard Maich was the federal judge, and he tried them for Alan's civil rights, violating Alan's civil rights, another trial that we were all in. And when it's said and done, and that's the end of the article for the Post, fellas, no one ever stood trial. No one was ever convicted for the murder of Alan Berg.
Oh, that hurts. And we'll put a pin in it there. And what I want you to address when we come back, Pete, is how you see many of the things that led to Alan Berg's murder being repeated right here in America again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Want to talk to you before we go about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. We've hosted Gay here in the studio multiple times. This is a delightful woman. Not only is her name well known among real estate agents here in the state of Colorado for her ability to provide quality home sales, but she's just a believer in what we're doing here at 710 KNUS. She's a delightful person, which is, first of all, really important when you're working with a real estate agent and going through the stress of having to sell your own home. But number two, She gives back to this community. She supports our values here at 710 KNUS, and she supports orphans to help them find their forever home here in the state of Colorado. So you're working with someone with a really great heart. Number 3, she is a titan in the home sale industry. Listen to this. She gets her clients an average of $30,000 more because she has over 14,700 pre-approved buyers. Listen, I know we all have friends and family members that are real estate agents, but this is a business deal. You need to get the most for your family. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to her and the Empower Home team today at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with Peter Boyles on the 40th anniversary of the assassination of Alan Berg. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us is Peter Boyles. He's got an opinion piece in the Denver Post over the weekend. Allenberg's murderers may be dead, but their anti-Semitism thrives today. Pete, thanks so much for being on the program. Let's talk about how you see this coming back up, that this white supremacism, this anti-Semitism is circling back around again.
Well, I don't ever think it goes away. I mean, we can find, page after page of history that says exactly the same things. But after the Second World War and the Holocaust is discovered and everyone is aghast, but it doesn't change. I mean, I look at Columbia University today, and it's Heidelberg in 1934. And when you plumb these people, it isn't that they're, and when you say anti-Zionist, it's anti the state of Israel. These are flat out anti-Semites, and in the Western part of the world, anti-Semite means anti-Jewish, because remember, in the Middle East there are many, many Semites. But this kind of stuff, it seems to rear its head. Every time you think it isn't there anymore, it really is there. And what these guys did, and by the way, if you go to the websites, these guys are heroes. Bob Matthews is a hero. They're held in reverence for what they did, and it's important to note, and I noted in the article, they're all dead with the exception of Richard Scutari. They all died in prison.
Jeez. Now, what do you think the lessons we can take from? We have pro-Hamas protests. We have Jewish students being yelled at on campus. We have them taking over college buildings. Do you see many of those same people that were adherents to the guys that went after Berg repeating that they're starting a new generation with what we're seeing in the protest right now?
The difference with the people that murdered Alan, Billy, Jeffy, they never said a word. They just did it.
Wow, that's the scary part.
They just did it.
Jeez. Peter Boyles joining Jeff and Bill.
Thanks, you guys.
Hey, thank you so much, Pete. You are the best. We sure appreciate you. Alan Berg murdered 40 years ago last night. Pete Boyles having to wake up this morning 40 years ago, losing one of his best friends. Man, that hurts.
I'm working tomorrow. No, I'm working Saturday morning at 9.
Yeah, you are. You got Saturday morning at 9 with us, my friend. Yeah, you can come in tomorrow if you want to. Yeah, we'll bring you in.
By the way, we got Lauren Boebert in tomorrow. That would be a fun interview with Pete Boyles and Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, Lauren Boebert and Peter Yu joining us. But Peter, thank you so much.
You're the best. I love you, man.
Thanks, fellas.
Take care.
Best.
Powerful.
Thanks,
read the article in the Denver Post. You can get more details on that. It's been great talking with everyone. You've been tuning in to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.